Chapter 1630. Du Xiaofu looked at Qi Yeshi and asked curiously, "Who are they?" Qin Wudi from the legalism, Gongsun Wuji from the school of vertical and horizontal, and Long San from the dragons. Qi Yeshi said, "The 9 great clans have been planning for this trip to the Divine Dominion. Rumor has it that if they can obtain the greatest opportunity in the Divine Dominion, they will be able to rise above the other 8 great clans and prosper in the world." During the birthday celebration of the old sovereign of the legalism, the great clans and the great clans sent their best representatives. However, the strongest existences behind them have always been hidden. Just like you. You didn't go last time. Du Xiaofu smiled. He had already guessed it. Qi Yeshi was also a hidden existence in the school of Yin Yang. However, she had joined the legalism with Senior Xing Hun because of him. Don't be careless. Strictly speaking, Qin Wudi and Gongsun Wuji are not of the same generation as us. According to the information I received, Qin Wudi has an extremely high position in the legalism. He is your mother's 3rd brother. Qi Yeshi paused for a moment and looked at Du Xiaofu. As for Gongsun Wuji, he is related to both your parents. Perhaps the school of vertical and horizontal's desire to deal with you has a lot to do with him. He has a grudge with my parents. Du Xiaofu roughly understood the reason. No wonder the school of vertical and horizontal, legalism, and the dragons were on the same side. It's not just a grudge, Qi Yeshi smiled bitterly and said, "Let's put it this way. Your mother was originally engaged to Gongsun Wuji. However, your mother went to Tianwu Academy and met your father. After that, everything happened." Hearing this, everyone looked at Du Xiaofu curiously. I didn't know that Uncle Tingxian was so powerful. Yi Zijin was a little surprised, but there was a smile on her face. So there are such things. Only then did Ghost Chariot, Master Apothecary, Yi Wuming, and Gu Qingyang understand that Du Xiaofu's father was so powerful that he could even snatch the daughter-in-law of the House of Vertical and Horizontal. It was no wonder that the House of Vertical and Horizontal interfered and insisted on dealing with the Demon King. No one knows what level Qin Wudi and Gongsun Wuji have reached, but rumor has it that they might be above Su Yuni and Han Ningmo. Qi Yeshi said, "Long San is sure to be a Nirvana Supreme. His strength is unfathomable." Du Xiaofu didn't say anything, but he knew a lot about the various reasons. Du Xiaofu already knew a lot about Qin Wudi's existence from the primordial spirit search of the legalism disciples. As for Gongsun Wuji, he secretly remembered him in his heart. The next day, Du Xiaofu bid farewell to everyone and once again stepped on the path to find his true self. But according to Qi Yeshi, Du Xiaofu continued to go deeper. That was the center of the divine domain. Everyone was going there, and the final opportunity would appear there. "Dad, be careful." Little Star was reluctant to leave. She wanted to follow, but she couldn't do so. "Take good care of yourself. Also, everyone, help me pay attention to my dad. He's also in the divine domain." Du Xiaofu waved goodbye to everyone, and then swaggered off. Time slowly passed, and the divine domain was surging like a storm. The news of several supremes fighting spread, causing an uproar. In the divine domain, inheritances appeared every day. Heavenly treasures appeared, and there were disputes every day. There were also countless great dangers that caused many people to suffer. There were also many terrifying ancient beast descendants. They were powerful and frightening. No one was willing to provoke them, not even the 9 great clans. As time passed, many people lost their life-saving talismans and entered for the second time. Thus, the disputes gradually escalated to a true confrontation. Blood dyed many places red. Some people obtained shocking treasures, and there were even rumors of people obtaining saint artifacts. This news couldn't be hidden and was immediately hunted down. The 18 heavenly guards and the desolate nations Du Yunlong also gradually became famous in the divine realm, leaving everyone stunned and shocked. It was rumored that the leader of the 18 celestial guards, Yi Piaoling, was a Nirvana Supreme. He led 17 brothers, and no one could stop them. The 18 of them killed hundreds of people from the legalism school of vertical and horizontal. Du Yunlong also became the third person in the Du clan to kill a pure-blooded true dragon descendant, shocking everyone. The pitiful dragon fifth had already lost his life-saving talisman to Du Xiaofu. It was rumored that he met Du Yunlong from the Du clan and wanted to kill Du Yunlong for revenge. He also wanted to take back the heavenly dragon cover from Du Yunlong. Who would have thought that Du Yunlong would step into the Nirvana stage and kill him directly? This matter shook everyone and caused an uproar, causing people to suck in a breath of cold air. At this time, all the powers realized how terrifying the desolate country was. Just the number of Nirvana Supremes was enough. The desolate country also had existences like Qianguyu, the silver-winged demonic condor, the zither devil, Gui Che, Du Shaoqing, and Little Tiger. They were enough to sweep through any power. Don't provoke the desolate country. In the divine domain, the elders of the various powers warned their juniors. Not to mention the demon king, Du Xiaofu, the other youths of the desolate country were also abnormally tyrannical. Some of them were fierce murderers. If they weren't vicious beasts, then they were killing gods. Whoever provoked them would have bad luck. The disciples of the 9 great clans were full of arrogance. They didn't put the common people in their eyes. However, after entering the divine domain and encountering the desolate country's peers, they realized that the outside world was not simple. As all kinds of uproar spread, some people were surprised to see the demon king, Du Xiaofu's figure appear in a dangerous place. He broke in alone and left after a few days. The others couldn't even enter the dangerous place. There were terrifying ancient arrays everywhere. There were also people who saw the demon king, Du Xiaofu's figure appear in a bottomless abyss. He seemed to be comprehending something. Ancient runes flickered all over his body, as if they wanted to transform into mountains and lakes. In the vast sea, there were also people who saw the demon king, Du Xiaofu's figure. In the end, he disappeared into the sea. Like this, another month passed. The demon king, Du Xiaofu's figure had disappeared for a long time. No one knew where he went. The school of vertical and horizontal, the dragons, and the legalism spies were secretly looking for the demon king, Du Xiaofu, but in the end, they couldn't find him. However, as they got closer to the center of the divine domain, the names of many fierce people spread and shook the world. Among them were the fire cloud evil god, Dugu Fenshin, dark hell emperor, heavenly wolf Mo Tianxiao, great snow mountains descendant, Lian Qingrong, heavenly demon Yelu Han, and undead spirit demon Dongfang Qingmu. These 6 people were said to have monstrous strength. In the ancient ruins, there were continuous broken walls and ruins. In a modeled stone house, Du Xiaofu's black hair draped over his shoulders. His face was even more resolute. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. 8 ancient runes covered his body. They were arranged, derived, and changing. With his eyes tightly closed, Du Xiaofu was immersed in a state of enlightenment, entering into a state of emptiness. The 8 ancient runes comprehended from the life-saving talisman were connected to the divine domain. The profound mysteries were vast and incomparably profound. Du Xiaofu was immersed in it. After an unknown amount of time, Du Xiaofu's body shone. The 8 ancient runes were changing and overlapping with each other. In the end, the mysterious 8 ancient runes could give birth to 64 ancient runes. They relied on each other and shone resplendently. Then, they once again turned into 8 ancient runes. The 8 ancient runes were changing and lingering around Du Xiaofu's body. They brought with them a strange energy of heaven and earth, which was forging Du Xiaofu's body and primordial spirit. At this moment, if there were experts above the realm of true self who saw this scene, they would be astonished and in disbelief. They would find that Du Xiaofu's path was different from theirs. Du Xiaofu wasn't looking for the true self in the cultivation of profound mysteries. He seemed to be looking for his own true self. To put it simply, Du Xiaofu was looking for the true self in his body and primordial spirit. It was unknown whether the ancient people had tried this path, but at least no one in the present world had heard of it. Putting everything aside, Du Xiaofu's current achievements had already amazed those ancestor-level experts in the outside world. There were even ancestor-level powerhouses who gave the order to investigate how Du Xiaofu had cultivated and how he had achieved such great achievements. The nirvana of a Grand Supreme was enough to prove everything. If they could investigate clearly, comprehend and perfect it, that path was enough to shock even ancestor-level experts. Chapter 1631. The 8 ancient runes sometimes split into 64 runes and sometimes returned to 8 runes. They changed unpredictably and merged with Du Xiaofu's body. Du Xiaofu was immersed in them. Whether it was his body or his soul, Du Xiaofu was subliming. However, Du Xiaofu was not satisfied. He wanted to continue on this path. He wanted to go further on this path. In the end, the 8 runes lingered and twisted the surrounding space. In this space of the divine dominion, there was a strange energy fluctuation. It surged into Du Xiaofu's body, causing Du Xiaofu's body to become even more crystalline and translucent. It was as if a layer of dead skin had been shed on the surface of his body, giving off a new vitality and full of vitality. Above Du Xiaofu's head, ancient runes flashed like divine fire, shining brilliantly. At this moment, around the ancient ruins, the runes seeped out of the broken walls and gathered together. This ancient ruin used to be the mansion of an ancient powerhouse. It used to be the location of an ancient sect. Over the countless years, it had retained an invisible spirituality. Once it was used, it would bring great benefits to the cultivator. Du Xiaofu had chosen to cultivate in seclusion here for this reason. He hoped to obtain the spirituality left behind by the ancient cultivator to strengthen his body and sublimate his soul. In this space of the divine dominion, there were opportunities everywhere. Only Du Xiaofu would waste his time on this kind of cultivation. Instead of looking for opportunities, he would look for the illusory spirituality that existed in the ancient ruins. This was something that others would not even look at. No one would care about it. It did not bring any substantial benefits to cultivators. Sometimes, they would even spend a lot of time and still end up with nothing. They would not be able to use the spirituality. However, Du Xiaofu was different. He was absorbing the spirituality in the ancient ruins to strengthen his body and sublimate his soul. This kind of feeling was like a fish swimming into the sea, or a baby in his mother's arms. Whoosh! After an unknown period of time, the 8 runes around Du Xiaofu overlapped and merged. They changed and gradually calmed down. In the end, the runes withdrew into his body and disappeared. Phew! After a while, Du Xiaofu exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His eyes were clear and deep. He looked even more outstanding and gave people a feeling of transcendence. This kind of intangible temperament was difficult to describe with words. However, it made people feel a different kind of emptiness, as if there were no impurities. It's been 3 months. I've made some progress, but it's still not enough. Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. After packing up, he walked out of the ancient ruins and headed towards the center of the divine domain. Along the way, it was said that the space of the divine dominion was very vast. He had been in seclusion for so long, so naturally, he did not see anyone. He had been in seclusion for so long. So naturally, he did not see many people, they had been in seclusion for so long, to the center, to the center, to the... With the primordial spirit of the red-bone horse monkey, Du Xiaofu collected a lot of spiritual herbs along the way. With the heavenly tower of purplish gold on him, Du Xiaofu managed to find quite a number of arcane and Dao artifacts. However, in the end, the heavenly tower of purplish gold devoured them all, reducing them to ordinary metal. However, the highest quality one was already a quasi-saint tool. Du Xiaofu forcibly kept it. He could not bear to let the purple gold heavenly tower devour it. Du Xiaofu and the purple gold heavenly tower spent a lot of effort to subdue and suppress this quasi-saint tool. In the end, Du Xiaofu took it for himself. He kept it in the purple thunder profound cauldron and suppressed it. This caused the purple gold heavenly tower to be dissatisfied. You've already devoured a lot. Digest it well. Du Xiaofu looked at the purple gold heavenly tower in his hand and said. After entering the divine dominion, the purple gold heavenly tower had devoured enough Dao tools and Dao tools. The artifact spirit had also been improving. However, the strange thing was that he could not identify the specific level of the purple gold heavenly tower. However, Du Xiaofu felt that the purple gold heavenly tower's power was at least not below that of a quasi-saint tool. The artifact spirit had already devoured a lot of high-grade Dao tools. Du Xiaofu's heart ached when he devoured so much. Buzz! Buzz! The purple gold heavenly tower emitted the sound of wind and thunder. It seemed to be protesting against Du Xiaofu. The protest is invalid. Du Xiaofu overruled the purple gold heavenly tower's protest and kept it in the divine tower. Let's try again. Then Du Xiaofu's hand seals condensed. The ancient runes condensed into a life-saving talisman. Finally, he put it in the space between his eyebrows. Walala! The life-saving talisman emitted a dazzling light with the aura of reincarnation. Du Xiaofu clearly felt that the life-saving talisman was about to fall into his forehead. However, for some reason, it disappeared in the end. I failed again. Can't I really give myself a life-saving talisman? Du Xiaofu sighed. This was already the 5th time he tried. However, he failed every time. He could not give himself a life-saving talisman. Originally, he thought that with a life-saving talisman, he could be willful in the divine domain for once. He would dare to risk his life against experts and seize opportunities in dangerous places. However, in the end, Du Xiaofu could only hang his head dejectedly. It's time to meet up with everyone. Du Xiaofu murmured. Anyway, he had already accepted the fact that he could not give himself a life-saving talisman. Then, he continued to leave. Du Xiaofu shuttled all the way to the center of the divine domain. So much time had passed. He was worried about everyone's safety. He did not know what the situation outside was like. This was an ancient cave. There were faint thunderbolts lingering around it. A figure with a straight back was sitting cross-legged. His body was surrounded by faint lightning, covering every inch of his body. He exuded a powerful destructive force. Amidst the thunderbolts, there were purple talisman runes under his robes. The purple electric arcs rippled with a murderous aura. This was a handsome middle-aged man. His body was rippling with a formless pressure of the heavens and earth. His hair fluttered in the wind. His face was strong and handsome. He gave off an incomparably powerful feeling. Suddenly, the middle-aged man's tightly shut eyes opened. Purple thunderbolts surged in his eyes. They were sharp and overbearing. A terrifying aura spread out from his body. You just caught up. It's been a while. Let's settle this first. He spoke. He stood up straight and gave off a murderous aura. Within the cliff, dozens of figures appeared. There were many old men and middle-aged men. They were all true martial domain realm cultivators. There were also many young men and women. Every one of them was extraordinary. Even in the outside world, they would be extremely powerful. After searching for so long, Du Tingxian is hiding here. It can't be wrong. A middle-aged man said to the leading old man beside him. He looked at the cliff in front of him. His eyes flickered with a blazing flame. Restrain your aura and surround this place. Don't let him escape. The old man said to the people beside him with murderous intent in his eyes. Rumble. Suddenly, just as the old man finished speaking, countless thunderbolts fell from the cliff in front of them. Ah, help! Thunderbolts pierced through the void and descended with vast power. Immediately, many people were killed. They screamed and wailed. The remaining people were in a mess. Du Tingxian, come out if you can. What's the point of sneaking up on us? Looking at the thunderbolts descending and killing more than 10 people, the leading old man exploded with divine light. He turned into a sea of fire and blocked the thunderbolts. His eyes were filled with coldness and his voice was harsh. Old man, you still dare to be so dignified when you bring people to sneak up on us. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure stepped on lightning and slowly flew out from the cliff. Immediately, he appeared in mid-air. Boom! Just as the figure appeared in mid-air, a terrifying aura swept out from his body like a storm. What a powerful aura! Didn't he destroy his own cultivation? How did he recover it so quickly? Looking at the middle-aged figure in the air, the old man's complexion suddenly changed. He had received the news that Du Tingxian had crippled his own cultivation to enter the divine domain. He hadn't expected that Du Tingxian would become so strong so quickly. Although they were in the divine domain, he could still feel how powerful Du Tingxian was. I've been waiting for you and haven't continued to break through. Since you're here, don't leave. As soon as he finished speaking, thunderbolts swept out from Du Tingxian's body. In the surrounding void, thunder clouds rolled and the wind surged. Humph, even if you've recovered your cultivation, you're still far from it. As long as you're not eliminated, you'll be the laughingstock and stain of the school of vertical and horizontal. You and your father should have disappeared from this world a long time ago. The old man was gloomy and his eyes were cold. He was here to ensure that Du Tingxian was killed. I had no intention of crossing swords with the school of vertical and horizontal. We've minded our own business, but you've provoked me time and time again. Back in Stone City, you used a black spear on me. Now, you even dare to touch my son. So, go to hell. Du Tingxian's handsome face was filled with coldness. He did not hide his murderous intent. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from his body. Rumble. In an instant, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Countless thunderbolts descended from the void with a vast destructive aura. Kill Du Tingxian with all you've got. The old man shouted. Dozens of figures attacked at the same time. Meridian spirits, martial veins, and Dharma artifacts were all out. The light was dazzling and covered the sky. The surrounding void burned as if it was going to collapse. You're far from enough. Even if I've recovered my cultivation, this is the space of the divine region. I'm also in the martial region. I'm enough to kill you useless soldiers. Du Tingxian was calm. With a clench of his hand, the thunderbolts intensified and destroyed everything in their path. With a low ear-piercing sound of thunder, everything was destroyed. Ah, impossible. How can he be so strong? This is impossible. Save me. Suddenly, there were screams and wails. The terrifying thunderbolts destroyed all the martial veins and Dharma artifacts. Many disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal who had lost their life-saving talismans had their souls destroyed. Those who had life-saving talismans were taken away by them. Die, you old man. Du Tingxian's figure strangely appeared beside the old man. With a shake of his arm, lightning covered his fist and dispersed the surrounding sea of fire. His fist landed directly on the chest of the old man, destroying his defense. With just one punch, the old man exploded into a bloody mist. The old man had already lost his life-saving talisman. Now that his soul was destroyed, it was too late for him to escape. In his despair, his primordial spirit turned into a bloody mist along with his physical body. Therefore, I've asked a few readers in the group to post the update time in the book review section. Hopefully, there won't be too many readers waiting for too long. I'm sure there will be some readers who didn't go to the book review section. I apologize for making everyone wait. Chapter 1632. Dozens of disciples from the school of vertical and horizontal were killed in an instant. It's about time. Let's choose a place to break through. I hope I can succeed, Du Tingxian muttered to himself as he looked forward. Ao Tong, you have waited for so long. Wait for me for a while longer. I will definitely go back to get you and your daughter. Blazing flames were burning on the vast barren mountain. Dozens of young men and women stood back to back. Their bodies were stained with blood and they were all covered in energy. They had activated their Dao weapons and talisman weapons. Some of them were wearing armor and were covered in mysterious runes. An exceptionally outstanding man with light red hair looked extraordinary. He was dressed in a tight suit and had a flaming cloak. He looked like the god of fire and had an invincible aura. But at this moment, surrounded by hundreds of people, these dozens of young men and women were in imminent danger. They were in a sorry state and their hair was disheveled. Even the invincible young man who seemed to be the leader of the group was suppressed. Just a small sacred flame sect. Kid, hand over the heavenly flame and I can spare your lives. A young man stood proudly and was incomparably powerful. He did not care about outsiders but was a little afraid of the leading man. He had a life-saving talisman in his glabella. If he died, nothing would happen. However, he would not be able to get the heavenly flame that he wanted. Half of you don't have any life-saving talismans. If you die, you will really die. Hand over the heavenly flame and I will not only spare your lives, but the school of vertical and horizontal will also protect your sacred flame sect in the future. Gong Sun Chi, fight me one-on-one if you dare. The leading man looked at the young man and said coldly, if you can defeat me, I will give you my Red Lotus Hellfire. If you lose, I will take my people and leave. Do you dare? This man was none other than Lian Wushang from the Sacred Flame sect. Back then, he had severely injured Lin Weiqi in the Tianhuang mainland and angered Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu appeared and severely injured him. He even said that he was not one of the 13 heroes. But later on, other than the dead Dragon 9, the world still counted Lian Wushang as one of the 12 heroes. Say no more. Capture everyone and this kid will be obedient. Hearing Lian Wushang's words, an elder from the school of vertical and horizontal gloomily said. He was afraid that Gong Sun Chi wouldn't be able to win, which would only cause more trouble. One had to know that the red lotus karmic fire on Lian Wushang's body was extraordinary. Even the school of vertical and horizontal would definitely be tempted and would want to take it for themselves. This was enough to show how terrifying the red lotus karmic fire was. Although Gong Sun Chi could be ranked in the top 20 of his generation in the school of vertical and horizontal, the old man was still worried that Gong Sun Chi wouldn't be able to successfully take him down in the divine dominion with Lian Wushang's karmic fire. Try to capture them alive. The old man didn't wait for Gong Sun Chi to speak. He seemed to have quite a high status in the school of vertical and horizontal. As soon as he finished speaking, over 100 people in the area immediately attacked. Many blazing auras erupted and sealed off the void. Let's fight. Under Lian Wushang's gloomy expression, his aura became hotter and hotter. His eyes were filled with blazing flames, as if there were two vast seas of fire in them. His light red hair fluttered in the wind as he formed a seal with his hands. A strange light red flame rose from his palms, and the temperature of the flame fluctuated wildly. Red Lotus Heavenly Fire, gather the Heavenly Fire Spirit. Boom! Suddenly, the light red flame on Lian Wushang's body was accompanied by the whistling of runes. It gathered into a huge flame spirit that was hundreds of feet tall. It towered in the void like a mountain peak. The terrifying temperature caused the void around it to be filled with white fog, turning everything into nothingness. What a terrifying red lotus karmic fire! Boom! Seeing Lian Wushang's transformation, many people from the school of vertical and horizontal narrowed their eyes. That terrifying blazing aura made their souls wither. But the more it was like this, the more tempted they were. The school of vertical and horizontal cultivated the profound of fire. If they could obtain this red lotus karmic fire, they would be like tigers that had grown wings. Let's fight. Retreat with all you can. Li Yan Wuxiang shouted. His blazing aura fluctuated continuously, turning into rolling flames that swept out like a tidal wave. Walala, the terrifying aura and rolling flames instantly swept towards the disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal, wanting to burn everything. Capture this person alive. The old man, Gong Sun Qi, and the others immediately attacked Li Yan Wuxiang. Rumble. Roar. Instantly, the void exploded, and the shadows of beasts roared. Energy surged into the sky. The disciples of the sacred flame sect were not weak. Being able to enter the deity plane meant that they were definitely talented. However, the disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal were stronger. Although they were in the deity plane and everyone was at the same level, they had an invisible advantage. Moreover, the school of vertical and horizontal outnumbered them by more than 10 times. The sacred flame sect could not resist at all. They were immediately trampled. Many of them were severely injured and vomited blood. Their meridians and souls were destroyed, and their dharma artifacts were sealed. If the school of vertical and horizontal did not want to capture them alive to threaten Li Yan Wuxiang, they would not have been able to hold on. Senior brother Wuxiang, retreat quickly. Don't bother about us. Some disciples shouted as they vomited blood. They knew that if Li Yan Wuxiang wanted to escape with all his might, they would have a great chance. As your senior brother, how can I leave you all behind? Even if I die in battle, I will not leave any of you behind. Li Yan Wuxiang shouted as he unleashed all his strength. With his own strength, he actually resisted the joint attack of 3 experts from the school of vertical and horizontal. At least you have some guts. A faint voice came from the void. A young man in purple clothes appeared. His gaze swept across the void and he said softly, "It's the school of vertical and horizontal again. Kill them all." As soon as he finished speaking, the young man in purple clothes formed a hand seal. Ancient runes seeped out from the void and connected with the deity plane. When these ancient runes appeared, the disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal who had life-saving talismans cracked in between their eyebrows. In the end, the talismans shattered and disappeared. My life-saving talisman is gone. What's going on? Du Xiaofu, he is the demon king Du Xiaofu. This part of the void was in chaos. Exclamations could be heard. Some people recognized Du Xiaofu, while others were shocked that they had lost their life-saving talismans. Oh no, it's Du Xiaofu. Gong Sun Qi and the leading elder immediately looked at Du Xiaofu. Their eyes trembled violently. The news that the school of vertical and horizontal had received let them know how terrifying the demon king Du Xiaofu was. Retreat. Quick. Immediately, Gong Sun Qi and the elder shouted and tried to escape. They knew that they could not fight against the demon king Du Xiaofu. They were already scared. You can't escape. Go to hell. Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and the illusory saber formation flew out from his palm. Wind and thunder roared and turned into hundreds of saber rays that broke through the void. They were filled with a destructive aura. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation and strength, his illusory saber formation had improved. With Gong Sun Qi's cultivation level, how could he resist it? The illusory saber formation contained the 9 palaces and 6 directions. It was extremely complicated. They could not even escape. Amidst the screams and chaos, hundreds of disciples and followers of the school of vertical and horizontal were turned into a bloody mist. Their blood dyed the mountain peak below red. Du Xiaofu took the Qianquan bags and many dharma weapons without hesitation. The disciples of the sacred flame sect were stunned in the void. Their faces were filled with shock as they witnessed the unbelievable scene. The powerful disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal turned and ran when they saw the demon king Du Xiaofu. They did not dare to fight against him. Was he really a disciple of the school of vertical and horizontal? As for the hundreds of disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal, they could not even withstand a single blow. More importantly, their life-saving amulets were broken and they were killed. Tisk, just as the disciples of the Sacred Flame sect were in a daze, ancient runes gathered and turned into runes. They fell between the eyebrows of the disciples of the Sacred Flame sect who had lost their life-saving amulets and turned into a new life-saving amulet. Life-saving amulet, I have another life-saving amulet. Oh my God, what is going on? One by one, the disciples of Sacred Flame sect were horrified. However, the disciples who had obtained the life-saving amulet were ecstatic. Tsk, the illusory saber formation was withdrawn and Du Xiaofu left. He actually left without saying a word. It was the demon king Du Xiaofu who saved us. He actually saved us. The disciples of the Sacred Flame sect were surprised that the demon king Du Xiaofu left after saving them. Many of them were present at the Tianhuang mainland. The demon king Du Xiaofu did not have a good impression of the Sacred Flame sect and had even severely injured Lian Wuxiang. Lian Wuxiang withdrew his heavenly fire spirit body and looked in the direction where Du Xiaofu had disappeared. After a while, he bowed deeply and said softly, "Thank you." Du Xiaofu had gone far away. It was a piece of cake for him to save the disciples of the Sacred Flame sect. Although Lian Wuxiang had severely injured Lin Weiqi and had also injured Lian Wuxiang, he did not have a good impression of him. However, Du Xiaofu saw that he had deep feelings for his fellow sect members and knew that such a person was definitely not an evil person. Moreover, the enemy of one's enemy was one's invisible ally. Moreover, Du Xiaofu did not want to let the school of vertical and horizontal off. Hence, he saved Lian Wuxiang and the others. He believed that in the future, when they met the school of vertical and horizontal in the divine territory, they would not be merciful if they had the chance. Whoosh whoosh, the vast mountains and towering trees covered the sky. Du Xiaofu had been on the road for several days. With his speed and the ancient remnant formations along the way, it was difficult to stop Du Xiaofu. Hence, the journey was extremely fast and they met more and more people along the way. Du Xiaofu stood in the air, gazing at the vast forest in front of him. It was boundless, and the sky was covered by a dense fog. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, and occasionally, there would be runes flickering. This place was very strange. In the divine territory, he did not have a life-saving talisman. Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless. Hence, Du Xiaofu tried to enter and was surprised to find that the fog was vast. Not only could it cover the vision of a martial domain realm cultivator, but even the primordial spirit would be affected. The sky was white. Once one entered, it was like losing a compass in the sea. One would not be able to distinguish between north, south, east, and west. It was easy to be trapped. If there was any danger, it would definitely be a terrifying thing. On the other hand, the vision below was much clearer. Hence, Du Xiaofu's figure landed. He did not dare to enter the fog in the air. Chapter 1633. In the forest, there were towering trees everywhere. Dozens of people might not even be able to wrap their arms around them. They were thousands of feet tall and were extremely shocking. There were enormous tree vines that were like horned dragons coiling around the towering trees. This was an ancient forest that had existed for who knew how many years. Although the fog in the forest was much less, it was still white and misty. Runes flashed in the distance from time to time. What is this place? Du Xiaofu was in the forest and was sure that this forest was not normal. There was a cold and frightening aura in the air. If one's primordial spirit was not strong enough, one would not be able to detect it. What a strange place. Du Xiaofu was surprised to find that this primordial forest consumed a lot of celestial qi and primordial spirit power. However, he did not know how wide this forest was. If he wanted to take a detour, he did not know how much time it would take. After hesitating for a moment, Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and decided to go deeper. However, he was careful and secretly activated his immortal Xian body. For several hours, Du Xiaofu carefully went deeper and deeper. He did not encounter any danger. After passing through this primordial forest, I should be able to get close to the center of the divine domain. Du Xiaofu murmured. From what Qi Yeshi had told him about the general situation of the god domain, he had been traveling at an extremely fast speed these past few days and hadn't wasted any time. After passing through this primeval forest, he should be able to reach the depths of the god domain. Du Xiaofu continued to go deeper. The deeper he went, the thicker the fog. Using his primordial spirit to spy on things also consumed his primordial spirit power more and more. It would also make him feel tired and weak. Fortunately, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit power and celestial qi were both vast and vast. Therefore, he was not a big problem. However, he did not dare to squander it and was very careful. Du Xiaofu did not dare to get lost in this forest. Otherwise, he did not know how long he would have to wander around in this forest before he could get out. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a fluctuation in the air. A white stream of light flashed and rushed toward Du Xiaofu. Boom! Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and immediately flapped the sky-shaking wings. Golden light burst out, dazzling and bright, and dispersed the surrounding fog. Bang! A resplendent white beast appeared, revealing its sharp fangs. It was only the size of a rabbit and was immediately sent flying. Swish swish, whooshing sounds immediately rang out from all directions, rushing towards Du Xiaofu from all directions. Crash! Du Xiaofu's body was suddenly surrounded by purple flames, which turned into a wave of blazing purple flames that swept out. It was as if the shadow of a purple flame demonic phoenix was flapping its wings. The purple flames engulfed the surrounding towering trees. However, the strange thing was that these towering trees did not seem to be ordinary trees. They were not destroyed immediately. The strange fog in the air was able to isolate and weaken the energy. Creak creak, however, as the purple flames swept out, strange squeaking sounds could be heard from the surroundings. Those strange beasts were sent flying and then fled in panic, disappearing in an instant. Everything happened abruptly, but it disappeared in an instant, as if it had never happened. What strange thing is that? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Even he had not seen clearly what kind of strange thing it was. It seemed to be a rat. It was very strange and unbelievably fast. It's dangerous. Be careful. Du Xiaofu became even more careful. This primeval forest was too strange. Bang bang, in the open space of the forest shrouded in fog, there were strange rocks all around. From the cracks of the strange rocks, many ferocious beasts leaped out from time to time. These beasts were dazzling white and looked ferocious. They had 4 limbs and sharp fangs. They were the size of rabbits and looked like rats. Although their small bodies were small, their auras were vigorous. They were densely packed and there were thousands of them. There were many corpses of the beasts around, covering the open space. The strange beasts climbed on the corpses of their companions and surrounded the 3 girls in the open space. They bared their fangs and their eyes were scarlet. They let out strange squeaking sounds that could affect the primordial spirit. The 3 girls stood back to back and looked around vigilantly. Their expressions were serious. Their clothes were stained with blood and shrouded in light. Their hair was a little messy and they seemed to be in a sorry state. The 2 girls were delicate and pretty. If they were in the outside world, they would definitely be extraordinary. Although they were not devastatingly beautiful, they would at least be famous. Among the 3, it was obvious that the leader was a girl. Her skin was white and there was a hint of pink in her snow-white skin. It was as if water could be wrung out of her skin. She was beautiful and moving. "Miss, these cloud-swallowing wolf shrews are too scary. What should we do?" A delicate girl's face turned pale. In this primeval forest, they could not escape. These strange cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were endless. They did not know how many were left. "Protect yourselves. Fight and retreat." The leader's eyes were like water, as if she did not eat the food of mortals. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, but her eyes were filled with a mysterious radiance. It was ethereal and gorgeous like fireworks. Squeak squeak, the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews launched their next wave of attacks. The strange squeaking sounds resounded in the void as they pounced in all directions. These cloud-swallowing wolf shrews' mouths could protrude sharp light blades that could cut through the void. Those deep fangs could easily bite through a person's defense and bite a bloody hole in their body. There are too many of these evil beasts. We can't kill them all. We are in big trouble. The two delicate girls shouted and attacked with all their might. They even used their pulse spirits and martial veins. The two girls' pulse spirits were resplendent butterflies that could tear through the void with a flap of their wings. They were very powerful and filled with pressure. But at this moment, the two girls were attacking with all their might, but they were still unable to kill a bloody path out of the encirclement of thousands of cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. Moreover, this primeval forest was filled with these strange demonic beasts. There was no way to escape. Bang bang. The two girls attacked with all their might and shattered many of the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews into a bloody mist. Those demonic beasts that were close to them were shattered until their skin and flesh were torn apart. But they couldn't withstand the size of the demonic beasts. Their defense became more and more strenuous. There were already demonic beasts that were tearing at their defense. It was very strange that they could devour their celestial chi. The leading girl was also attacking with all her might. She had a cloud sleeve treasure in her hand that was very powerful. When she waved it, purple mist filled the air with the sound of wind and thunder. Although she was surrounded by the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews and her expression was slightly serious, she didn't panic at all. With a sweep of her cloud sleeve, the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews around her were shattered into a bloody mist. But they didn't know how long they had been fighting. In this primeval forest, even moving normally consumed a lot of celestial chi and primordial spirit power, let alone fighting fiercely. These cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were not affected at all. At this moment, the three girls were also finding it more and more strenuous. Gradually, they couldn't hold on, and their faces became pale. "Are we really going to die here and start all over again?" a delicate girl said. Although her butterfly pulse spirit had turned into a true spirit, it was still heavily injured at this moment, causing her to vomit blood. "I'm just afraid that these cloud-swallowing wolf shrews will devour our bodies. In the end, we can only rely on our life-saving talismans to escape from our primordial spirits," the leading girl said. She was using all her strength to protect the two girls beside her. So disgusting. Hearing the leading girl's words, the two delicate girls immediately felt nauseous. Thinking about how these ferocious demonic beasts would eat their bodies, swim around their smooth bodies, and devour their flesh and blood, they couldn't help but want to vomit. Squeak, suddenly, an extremely special squeaking sound came from the void. It was much sharper than the strange squeaking of the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews, and could penetrate through space. Hearing this sound, the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews that were pouncing towards them immediately stopped and looked at the misty void. Whoosh whoosh, then, the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews immediately retreating into the craggy rock crevice, disappearing at an extremely fast speed. Why are they all leaving? The cloud-swallowing wolf shrews retreated, causing the three girls to be surprised. Then, the two delicate girls directly sat down on the rocks behind them that seemed to be relatively clean. Their swords were stabbed into the ground as support, and they didn't care about their appearances. They were constantly panting, clearly exhausted to the extreme. They had used up all their energy. Take the pills. We can't stay here for long. The leading girl said, handing the pills to the two girls. She also stuffed a few pills filled with rich energy into her pale mouth. She circulated her cultivation method to speed up her recovery. Otherwise, it would be a huge crisis in this primordial forest. Suddenly, the leading girl who had just taken the pills immediately looked towards the depths of the clouds. Her beautiful eyes were filled with vigilance and sharpness. She shouted, "Who is it? No need to hide. Could it be that those strange rats have returned?" The two girls who had just sat down and panted immediately stood up, looking nervous. "Don't be nervous. I only heard the sound and came here. It's not a demonic beast." The voice came out from the depths of the mountain forest in the vast fog. A figure in purple gradually walked out. He was 26 or 27 years old, and his face was resolute and determined. This young man walked out, imperceptibly exuding a very comfortable feeling. His face was even more charming if one looked closely. His eyes were clear and deep. Seeing the young man in front of them appear, the two delicate girls breathed a sigh of relief. It was only one person. The girl on the left even said softly, "You scared me to death. I thought that the terrifying cloud-swallowing wolf shrews had returned." The other girl said, "I thought that guy had chased after us again. He is even more terrifying than these cloud-swallowing wolf shrews." Chapter 1634. But at this moment, looking at Du Xiaofu, the leading lady's eyes trembled violently as a look of surprise appeared on her face. Then, the leading lady's expression became introverted, but she was secretly nervous and vigilant. But when she looked at Du Xiaofu, a complicated look appeared in her eyes. "Who are you?" the beautiful lady on the left asked Du Xiaofu. Sensing that this man didn't have any dangerous aura, her expression relaxed quite a bit. "You don't recognize me." Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched as he looked at the lady in front of him. He then smiled and said, "Battle God, the invincible battle god. Who would have such a name?" The other beautiful lady obviously didn't believe him as she looked at Du Xiaofu suspiciously. "I'm really the invincible battle god," Du Xiaofu said with certainty. "Okay, let's continue." The two ladies beside the leading lady said, as if they didn't want to be too close to Du Xiaofu. "Miss, but we've been lost for a few days already. We don't know how to leave this strange place. If we continue, we'll be lost." One of the beautiful ladies frowned. The three of them had been lost in this strange place for a few days already. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get out. Also, the cloud-devouring wolf shrew would appear from time to time. "Look for it slowly, we can't stay here forever." The leading lady frowned slightly. She also couldn't find an effective way. Being trapped in the misty forest, she was helpless. "Are you guys also trapped?" Du Xiaofu asked. He had also been trapped for a day. The deeper he went into this ancient forest, the more he felt like he was in a vast ocean. He couldn't even differentiate between north, south, east, and west. In the entire strange forest, even sunlight couldn't be seen. It was impossible to tell the direction. "You're also trapped here, right? This place is too strange, it's impossible to get out." The delicate and pretty girl on the left looked at Du Xiaofu and sized him up. She seemed to be younger than the other girl. She curiously asked, "But aren't you the invincible battle god? Why can't you leave now?" "I'm invincible. That has nothing to do with this strange forest." Du Xiaofu pursed his lips and looked around. Looking at the dense corpses of the demonic beasts on the ground, he asked, "What are these things?" Du Xiaofu had encountered these strange demonic beasts several times, but he didn't recognize them. Even the heavenly spirit record didn't have any records of them. It was very strange. The attacking power of these demonic beasts was not particularly terrifying, but there were too many of them. They were silent in this strange forest, and their speed was unbelievably fast. They were extremely difficult to deal with. The woman in the lead hesitated for a moment before explaining to Du Xiaofu, "This is a cloud-swallowing wolf shrew. It comes from ancient times and is a remnant of ancient monsters. You shouldn't be able to see it in the outside world. I've once read about it in an unofficial history book. They aren't ferocious, but once their territory is invaded, they will violently attack. They won't stop until they're dead. These remnant ancient monsters seem to be affected by something in the divine domain. Those below the beast domain realm basically don't have high intelligence and can't transform. These things are really troublesome. They probably think this strange forest is their territory." Du Xiaofu frowned. In this strange forest, these cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were really an extremely troublesome existence. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched. His aura immediately surged. Ze activated the immortal Xian body, and purple arcs of lightning secretly overflowed. Squeak squeak, all of a sudden, strange squeaking noises rang out from the void again. They were densely packed and came from all directions. "Not good, why are they here again?" The two pretty women's faces immediately turned pale. The expression of the woman in the lead also changed abruptly. Squeak squeak, the ear-piercing squeaks that affected the primordial spirit whistled in all directions. The towering trees swayed, the ground shook, and light surged out from the cracks of the strange rocks in the surroundings. Walala, then, under the shocked and vigilant gazes of the four, countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews swarmed in from all directions. On the cliff, on the towering trees, on the open ground, and on the corpses of the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews in the surroundings. At this moment, the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were crawling everywhere. Their fangs were sharp, and their eyes were scarlet red. Their bodies were filled with white light, and they seemed to be able to merge with the vast white fog. "Why are there so many of them?" The younger pretty woman's face had already turned pale. There were so many cloud-swallowing wolf shrews, and there were more than 10 times more than before. They were so densely packed that it was terrifying. The body of the beautiful woman in the lead was filled with light. She held a cloud sleeve treasure in her hand. Looking at the densely packed cloud-swallowing wolf shrews in the surroundings, her expression was solemn. But then, her gaze fell on Du Xiaofu intentionally or unintentionally. "There are really so many of them." At this moment, the densely packed cloud-swallowing wolf shrews made Du Xiaofu frown. There was no way to kill them all. It would be very easy to exhaust them. Then, Du Xiaofu looked at the woman in the lead. He seemed to have a familiar feeling. In the end, his gaze fell on the cloud sleeve treasure in the woman's hand. His eyes lit up. That was definitely a precious treasure. Compared to the heavenly dragon cover, Taihang Mountain, and other semi-sage tools, it was definitely not inferior in terms of pressure. "Is there any way?" Seeing Du Xiaofu staring at the treasure in her hand, the beautiful woman couldn't help but secretly clench her fists a little. She knew that this guy's reputation had never been good. She had heard of him snatching treasures more than once or twice. Now that the Demon King didn't recognize her, she also pretended that she didn't know him. "There is no way. We can think of a way to avoid them." Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. There were too many of these cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. There was no point in killing them all. Moreover, it would cause him to exhaust too much energy. Retreating was the wisest choice. If you want to run, then run. Don't make it sound so elegant. Didn't you say that you can't win? The younger woman fiercely glared at Du Xiaofu. She slightly pouted her pale lips and said, "One look and I can tell that you are bragging. I hate men like you the most. If you don't fight, you won't lose. If you don't lose, you won't win. Don't you understand?" Du Xiaofu glared at the woman and coughed twice. "You are still so stubborn. Let's see what you can do later." These cloud-swallowing wolf shrews are extremely difficult to deal with. The beautiful woman rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. Be careful. Be vigilant. The older woman also secretly rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. Then, she reminded the woman beside her to be prepared. Squeak squeak, an exceptionally sharp squeak rang out. The cloud-swallowing wolf shrews in the surroundings immediately raised their heads and howled. The sound was ear-piercing, and their eyes became more and more dazzling. Their bodies were covered with runes, and then, they charged towards Du Xiaofu and the three women. Don't let them come close. The leading woman spoke. She activated the cloud sleeve treasure in her hand, enveloping a large area of space in order to block those cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. The other two women immediately acted as well. Many of the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews exploded in the sound of energy. Squeak squeak, Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve. Purple flames surged in the surroundings. The scorching temperature incinerated everything. Even the air was incinerated into nothingness. The approaching cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were all destroyed into nothingness. Numerous cloud-swallowing wolf shrews screamed miserably as they were incinerated in the purple flames. In an instant, they were reduced to nothingness. The two beautiful women were shocked and surprised. However, at this moment, there were still countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews charging towards Du Xiaofu. They carried a strong aura and were not afraid of death. From the surrounding forest, from the cracks in the strange rocks, from the towering trees, and even from the cracks in the ground, more and more cloud-swallowing wolf shrews began to appear. They covered the sky and covered the earth. The degree of terror was beyond one's imagination. It made one's heart tremble and one's hair stand on end. Ah, they are coming out from the ground. The two beautiful women began to panic. They were in a mess. From the towering trees in the surroundings, there were still countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews diving down from the sky. This was simply a disaster. There was no way to kill them. If one was trapped, there was no way to escape. Why are there so many of them? The beautiful woman was also shocked. Although she had frequently encountered these cloud-swallowing wolf shrews a few days ago, and they were also densely packed, it was definitely not like now. At this moment, the sky and the ground were densely packed with cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. This was too terrifying. They could even exhaust people to death. Bang, 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 the three women were already using all their strength to resist, and low explosive sounds continuously exploded. Du Xiaofu's entire body was wrapped in purple flames, and he was currently unharmed. Although these cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were densely packed and strange, it was not easy for them to truly do anything to Du Xiaofu. Squeak squeak, an exceptionally sharp squeaking sound once again resounded through the sky. The ground began to loosen, revealing cracks. Rumble, following that, a dozen or so cloud-swallowing wolf shrews the size of tigers appeared from the surroundings. They were dozens to hundreds of times larger than normal cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. These dozen or so cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were incomparably sturdy. Their bodies were covered in resplendent runes, and they erupted with a terrifying aura that could distort the surrounding space. The hairs on their bodies stood on end like hedgehogs, and they were incomparably sharp, adding to their ferocity. What a powerful aura! Are these shrew kings? The two beautiful women also felt the fierce aura on the bodies of the dozen or so exceptionally sturdy cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. That sharp hissing sound already caused their primordial spirits to feel a piercing pain. It was definitely abnormally terrifying. Squeak squeak, when the dozen or so exceptionally large and fierce cloud-swallowing wolf shrews appeared, the countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews in the surroundings became even more violent. They even pounced towards the four of them without any fear of death. Whoosh whoosh, as for the dozen or so large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews, they did not stay idle and immediately charged towards the four of them. Swish, three large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews charged into the purple flames around Du Xiaofu's body. They were actually able to withstand the terrifying temperature of the purple flames. Squeak squeak, these large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews released the same vast mist and runes as the strange primeval forest. They were able to isolate the temperature of the purple flames as they tore at Du Xiaofu with lightning speed. Their sharp, cold fangs seemed to be able to tear through everything. Chapter 1635. Bang! 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 Du Xiaofu's mind stirred, and 3 purple flame pillars shot out from the purple flames around his body. In a split second, they directly engulfed the 3 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. Poochie, with 3 muffled sounds, the 3 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were sent flying, crashing into the rocks, shattering many of the huge rocks into dust. They spat out dark red blood, but immediately crawled out, looking at Du Xiaofu with fear. So strong. At this moment, the one who was surprised was Du Xiaofu. Although he did not use his full strength just now, the power just now was enough to kill an ordinary martial domain realm cultivator. However, the 3 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews did not seem to be in much danger, which made Du Xiaofu somewhat surprised. These cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were really difficult to deal with, and their defense was also very strong. Squeak squeak, the other 10 or so large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews all pounced towards the other 3 women. Walala, the moving woman waved the cloud sleeve treasure in her hand. Divine light shone resplendently and its power was impressive. It enveloped the surrounding space and protected the 2 women beside her. However, she was already in a bit of a mess. Coupled with the fact that she was already on the verge of exhaustion, if the moving woman did not have the cloud sleeve treasure in her hand, she would not have been able to hold on. The 2 delicate and pretty girls were in an even more sorry state. They waved the treasured swords in their hands and killed the countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews around them. The 10 or so large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews had already been blocked by the alluring woman alone. However, the endless number of cloud-swallowing wolf shrews was not something that the 2 delicate and pretty women could withstand. Du Xiaofu's mind spied on his surroundings. The current situation was very abnormal. These cloud-swallowing wolf shrews seemed to be rioting, as if their entire nest was on the move. He had never seen these strange and troublesome large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews before. Squeak squeak, the sharp piercing sound rang out once again. Du Xiaofu's gaze immediately turned to the pile of strange rocks in front of him. Du Xiaofu looked over. At this moment, a cloud-swallowing wolf shrew the size of a small water buffalo had quietly appeared. This was the largest cloud-swallowing wolf shrew. Its entire body was pure white and crystal clear. Its silver-white fur stood upright like a hedgehog, but its eyes were a little scarlet. However, the aura of this silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew was much more ferocious and terrifying than the dozen large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. That battle god is undefeatable. Aren't you going all out now? Otherwise, we'll all be in big trouble. We have life-saving talismans, but you don't. The alluring woman said to Du Xiaofu, using the cloud sleeve treasure in her hand to resist with all her might. Creak creak creak, at this moment, the 3 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews that had been sent flying by Du Xiaofu continued to charge towards Du Xiaofu without fear of death after hearing the hiss of the largest silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew. Okay, as you wish. I'm the battle god, undefeatable. Just as the 3 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews bared their fangs and charged towards him, the purple flames around Du Xiaofu's body instantly changed. A purple lightning burst out from his body, turning into 3 lightning bolts that tore through the air. The 3 purple lightning bolts pierced through the void, revealing pitch-black cracks in the void and carrying a murderous aura. The moment that terrifying aura filled the air, the scarlet eyes of the 3 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews revealed an instinctive fear. Bang bang bang. The 3 lightning bolts exploded, and purple lightning arcs surged in the void. Then, the three large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews that were charging towards Du Xiaofu were directly killed by the three purple lightning bolts. Crackle! Purple lightning bolts wrapped around his body, and purple lightning runes surged around him. Wherever Du Xiaofu's figure passed, the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews in the surroundings would directly explode and be destroyed by the purple lightning. Wow, so he's so powerful. The two delicate and pretty girls also felt this scene and were instantly astonished. But then, the younger girl saw that Du Xiaofu seemed to be leaping away and exclaimed, "Is he trying to escape by himself? This is too shameful." Du Xiaofu's figure flashed across the sky and appeared on the pile of strange rocks. Squeak squeak, at this moment, the 10 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews that were originally blocked by the beautiful girl seemed to have sensed something. They immediately squeaked and gave up on the beautiful girl without hesitation. At the same time, they turned into a dozen white bolts, carrying a terrifying aura, and charged towards Du Xiaofu from behind with full force. Du Xiaofu didn't look back. At this moment, he just shook his right arm and opened his 5 fingers. Purple lightning bolts filled his hand, and purple lightning runes intertwined with each other. The bright lightning bolts were like a purple sun, and finally turned into a thunderstorm, enveloping the 10 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. Buzz buzz, the 10 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews weren't killed, but they were struck by lightning and immediately fell from the sky, vomiting blood at the same time. Squeak squeak. But at this moment, a bright silver light exploded. The largest silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew on the pile of strange rocks moved. Bright silver light erupted from its body, and as if it had turned into a pure white moon, it even gave off a sacred feeling. Enveloped by runes and mist, the cloud-swallowing wolf shrew emitted a divine light. A terrifying aura wasn't suppressed in the divine domain, and directly reached the peak of the sealed beast realm. It charged towards Du Xiaofu with lightning speed. Swish swish, the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew spat out bright white light from its mouth, which turned into countless sharp needles of light that could pierce through the void and destroy everything. The peak of the sealed beast realm. That must be the king of the cloud-swallowing wolf shrew. These ancient demon beasts aren't suppressed in the divine domain. The slightly older delicate and pretty girl cried out in alarm. That largest silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew was too powerful and terrifying. Boom! Du Xiaofu stepped into the air, his body wrapped in lightning. Purple arcs of lightning circled around him, making him appear even more extraordinary and majestic. The purple arcs of lightning were like rainbows, sweeping in all directions. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, distorting the void, accompanied by a vast and domineering aura of execution. Squeak, the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew seemed to have sensed something at this moment. Its body trembled, and fear appeared in its eyes. That terrifying aura of execution was too terrifying. It was the might of a supreme being, and it wanted to immediately retreat. But it was all too late. The bright purple lightning had already enveloped the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew. The purple lightning talisman runes rushed down, destroying the mist and light around its body, and directly smashing its body down. So powerful, the two girls in the distance were dumbfounded, and their mouths were dry. Bang bang bang, the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew's body crashed into the pile of rocks, shattering many of them, and spitting out blood. Whoosh, but the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew was very cunning. It then took advantage of the momentum to explode with white light, releasing a vast mist, as if it wanted to merge with the space. It actually directly entered the ground, wanting to escape immediately, and did not dare to stay any longer. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and spied with his mind. Not even the slightest movement could escape his detection. He had long since made preparations, so how could he possibly allow the largest cloud-swallowing wolf shrew to escape? Stay here. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared, and the lightning covered the sky and exploded, raising the surrounding area to the ground. The silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew was directly blasted out of the ground. Qi La, at the same time, Du Xiaofu's figure swept over like lightning. It was impossible for anyone at the same level to compare with the speed of the rock. It was like a series of afterimages that merged with the space, like a human-shaped rock spreading its wings to the sky. He stretched out one hand, and a lightning claw distorted the void, grabbing the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew's body like lightning, imprisoning the surrounding void. Squeak squeak, at this moment, the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew's body could no longer move an inch. It hissed in a strange voice, and the sound was ear-piercing, causing the countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews below to riot. Squeak squeak, immediately, under the leadership of more than 10 large cloud-swallowing wolf shrews, the fearless wolf shrews that blotted out the sky and covered the earth all soared into the sky, directly besieging Du Xiaofu from the sky and the ground. No more wolf shrews attacked the three girls. At this moment, the countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews that blotted out the sky and covered the earth like locusts, screeching in a strange voice, all of them pounced towards Du Xiaofu from the sky and the ground. The surrounding void was filled with countless terrifying auras that shook this strange ancient forest. Countless scarlet eyes shot out, and sharp fangs were revealed. This scene made the three girls suck in a breath of cold air. How terrifying was that? Bang bang bang. But at this moment, Du Xiaofu was surrounded by purple electric arcs, and all the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews that approached were directly blasted down, unable to get close to Du Xiaofu at all. Squeak squeak, the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew was imprisoned, and its blood essence seemed to be burning all over its body. Its power rose sharply, and the white fog and mysterious talisman patterns were shining brightly. It used its extreme strength to try to escape. But it was all too late. It was unable to break free at all. Its scarlet eyes revealed fear, and a voice said, "Human, let me go, and we will mind our own business. I will not deal with you anymore." "It's too late," Du Xiaofu spoke. He did not believe in the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. Once they escaped to the ground, they would be like dragons in the sea, and it would be difficult to deal with them again. Boom! When the voice was heard, a supreme pressure spread out from Du Xiaofu's palm, accompanied by flashes of lightning and roars of thunder. There were silver-yellow electric arcs that suddenly erupted, and the roars of dragons and tigers, and the roars of lions and phoenixes were heard. Roar, a terrifying aura burst out, and the sound made the countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews tremble in fear. Their attacks also stopped. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's palm was covered with a mysterious seal, and the shadow of a golden-winged rock appeared. It was shining with golden light, and silver-yellow electric arcs flickered. A monstrous pressure spread out from it. When this monstrous pressure descended, it contained a kind of pressure that all beasts could not resist. This kind of pressure came from the souls of all beasts, and from within their bloodlines. Squeak squeak, at this instant, the cloud-swallowing wolves and shrews that covered the heavens and the earth in the surroundings let out strange howls. Their beast souls trembled violently while their scarlet-red eyes revealed shock, and they prostrated themselves on the ground and didn't dare attack any longer. The silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew was filled with fear at this moment. That terrifying pressure made its beast soul tremble. That was the descent of a supreme beast. Its entire body was trembling, and it was completely suppressed. Blood Soul Seal. Amidst the cries of the dragons, phoenixes, lions, and tigers, Du Xiaofu's hand seal fell directly between the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew's eyebrows. Accompanied by the supreme beast's pressure, it turned into a ball of golden light. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's hand seals formed one after another. Runes lingered on his body, and rays of extremely strange and mysterious light fell between the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew's eyebrows one after another. Gradually, the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew that was struggling with all its might closed its scarlet eyes, and the hair on its body began to shrink. At this moment, even the countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews in the surroundings began to quiet down, and they all began to prostrate themselves meekly in the surroundings. Beast Control Technique. In just a moment, Du Xiaofu's last hand seal formed, and a dazzling golden light swept into the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew's eyebrows like lightning. In the next second, the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew's tightly shut eyes opened again. The scarlet color in its eyes had disappeared, and it became extremely docile. Its body prostrated, and the moonlight fluctuated, and the fog rippled. It said respectfully, "Greetings, Master." Squeak squeak, at the same time, countless cloud-swallowing wolf shrews in the surroundings began to squeak, and they were also surrendering. Coo coo, in the distance, the two delicate and pretty girls were already dumbfounded. They were flabbergasted, and they swallowed their saliva. The scene in front of them had already completely shocked them. The depths of the charming girl's eyes were also surging with waves at this moment. Fortunately, it worked. In the air, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and heaved a sigh of relief. Du Xiaofu was originally a little worried that his beast control technique would be useless against these ancient demon beasts. At this moment, it seemed that he was overly worried. He could already control the wolf shrew. Chapter 1636. Can you bring me out of this forest? Du Xiaofu asked the cloud-swallowing wolf shrew. He had also lost his way in this ancient forest. Therefore, Du Xiaofu did not intend to let the silver cloud-swallowing wolf shrew go. He wanted to use this opportunity to walk out of this ancient forest. These cloud-swallowing wolf shrews would definitely not get lost. This misty cloud forest is our territory. There are many dangers inside, but I can bring you out safely. The silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf, Swan and I, said respectfully. Phew, Du Xiaofu heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he ordered the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew to make the densely packed cloud-swallowing wolf shrews leave. He also found out that the silver-white cloud-swallowing wolf shrew was indeed the king of this nest of cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. In this divine domain, ancient demon beasts below the beast domain realm didn't have any intelligence. They couldn't even transform. However, this silver wolf shrew had already reached the peak of beast domain realm. In the end, it transformed into a woman wearing a silver dress. She looked very young and wasn't very tall. However, her appearance wasn't as ferocious as the shrew's original form. Although she wasn't very attractive, at least she looked very comfortable. However, when she spoke, her mouth revealed two rat teeth. From now on, I'll call you Yunshi, Du Xiaofu said. Then, he landed beside the attractive woman and the other two girls and said, I'm the invincible war god. I didn't lie to you, right? We can leave now. You're actually so strong. The younger girl swallowed a mouthful of saliva and stared blankly at Du Xiaofu. She still felt like she was sucking in a breath of cold air. Of course I'm very strong. Du Xiaofu patted his chest. He was confident that he was very strong. He asked the three girls, I still don't know who you are. What's your name? The younger girl opened her mouth but was interrupted by the attractive woman. She said to Du Xiaofu, we're from a small place in Kyushu. Even if I tell you, you might not know. They're my personal maids. Their names are Big Lon and Little Lon. My surname is Su. Miss Su. Du Xiaofu nodded his head. The older and prettier girl should be Big Lon, and the younger girl was naturally Xiao Lon. The two girls beside him had the talent to enter the divine domain. This Su girl's talent was definitely not ordinary. Du Xiaofu naturally did not believe that she came from a small place. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't too suspicious of the three women. He felt that they didn't have any ill intentions towards him. Instead, he asked curiously, why are you trapped here? The woman surnamed Su said to Du Xiaofu, we've been trapped in this strange forest for several days and haven't been able to get out. It's all because of that terrifying guy. He's been haunting us all this time, and his strength is so terrifying. Otherwise, we wouldn't have entered this place. Xiaolan was filled with hatred as she pouted. Are you being hunted down? Don't worry, the next time I meet that person, I'll definitely avenge you, Du Xiaofu said with a smile. I know you're very strong, but I have to tell you, that guy is probably even stronger than you. He's a Nirvana supremacy. Xiaolan knew that Du Xiaofu was very strong, but her expression soon changed to one of shock. Staring at Du Xiaofu, she exclaimed in a trembling voice, "You were able to deal with a peak-sealed domain realm cloud-devouring wolf shrew, and you weren't affected by the suppression of your strength in the god domain. Don't tell me you're also a Nirvana paragon." "I'm not. I just have some methods that allow me to raise my cultivation base in this divine domain." Du Xiaofu shook his head. He didn't admit to it, lest he complicate things. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the woman surnamed Su inwardly rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu, but didn't say anything. She stuffed a few medicinal pills into her mouth and then gave some to Xiaolan and Xiaolan. Xiaolan swallowed the medicinal pills and didn't doubt Du Xiaofu's words. At the same time, she said to Du Xiaofu, "That's right, you don't look like a Nirvana supremacy. I saw that terrifying guy with 6 divine rings above his head. That kind of power is too frightening. He can cause heaven and earth phenomena. Although you were very strong just now, you didn't seem that terrifying. That guy is so powerful." Du Xiaofu was curious about the matter of Xiaolan and the others encountering a Nirvana supremacy. From her words, he guessed that the 6 divine rings should be a lesser Nirvana supremacy. A Nirvana supremacy must have encountered a difficult opponent and was in great danger. He asked, "Which Nirvana supremacy did you encounter? If I encounter him in the future, I'll have to avoid him." "Pfft. Aren't you invincible? Why do you have to avoid him?" Xiaolan giggled, and her attitude towards Du Xiaofu was much better. She said, "I don't know what his name is, but he's wearing a white battle robe and looks extraordinary. He's very handsome, but he's too annoying. Oh right, he has 8 beautiful maids following him, and they're all very powerful. We're not his match." Great Snow Mountain's descendant Lian Qingrong. Du Xiaofu didn't even need to think to know who that guy was. It was the descendant of the snowy mountain, Lian Qingrong. Last time, she was scared away by the divine soul devouring ants. It seemed like she should have gotten rid of those terrifying troubles. That guy is too terrifying. He always wanted our family's young miss to be his maid. He's very hateful. He chased us into this strange forest and trapped us for many days. Xiaolan was still hateful. That guy seems to have a hobby of taking in maids. Du Xiaofu's eyes slightly moved. Last time, Lian Qingrong wanted to take Su Muxin as her maid. That debt would be settled sooner or later in the future. Now that we're in this strange forest, there's no way out. That guy is too strong. We couldn't do anything to him with just 8 maidservants. Then, a beautiful woman suddenly appeared. She's so beautiful, she's like a fairy goddess of this world. That guy in white immediately stopped attacking us. He wanted to take that fairy goddess as his maidservant. Xiaolan paused for a moment, as if she was still admiring that girl's temperament. She said, that beautiful girl's strength was also very terrifying. She had an ancient bow that could pierce through the void. That guy in white battle robe used the strength of a supremacy. It was too terrifying. But I didn't expect that fairy goddess was also a supremacy. Their battle was so terrifying. It was as if they were going to destroy the heaven and earth. They destroyed a large area of the forest and fought until the sky turned dark. But in the end, it seemed like the fairy goddess was slightly inferior in terms of cultivation. She could only retreat in defeat. That hateful guy in white battle robe chased after her. Only then were we able to escape. Xiaolan said. There was still a lingering fear in her heart. If it wasn't for that fairy goddess appearing midway, she and her family's young miss wouldn't have been able to escape. Quickly tell me, the fairy goddess you spoke of, what does she look like? Where did she go? Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of Xiao Lan like lightning. He tightly grabbed Xiao Lan's arm. His expression was extremely serious. The golden light in his eyes was fiercely trembling. "Ah! You're hurting me." Xiao Lan was startled, then she opened her mouth to shout. Her arm was in pain from Du Xiaofu's grip. "I'm sorry, I was too nervous." "Quickly tell me." Du Xiaofu came back to his senses and let go of Xiao Lan. However, his expression was extremely serious. "That girl's age is about the same as mine. However, she's much more beautiful than me. She's wearing a tight green dress. She's a Nirvana sovereign. Her strength is extremely terrifying. That guy in white battle robe couldn't do much to her." The girl with the surname Su said. She already had a devastatingly beautiful appearance. However, when compared to the girl in tight green dress, she felt that she was overshadowed and couldn't be compared to her. "Lian Qingrong, I'm not done with you," Du Xiaofu shouted. At this moment, he was certain that the guy in white battle robe, other than the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong, there was no one else. As for the girl holding the ancient bow and wearing tight green dress, she was definitely Dongli Qingqing. She was his woman. At this moment, how could Du Xiaofu not be furious? Lian Qingrong had her eyes on Su Muxin from the start. At this moment, she was chasing after Dongli Qingqing. Both of them were his women. Could it be that you know that terrifying fellow? At this moment, Xiao Lan could more or less tell that the war god in front of her seemed to know that terrifying Nirvana sovereign. Moreover, he seemed to know those two terrifying Nirvana sovereigns. Not only do I know him. Du Xiaofu's eyes revealed a chilling intent. "Master, I've seen the person they're talking about 3 days ago." Suddenly, Yunmu opened her mouth and said to Du Xiaofu. Chapter 1637. Time runes flickered in the vast white fog, making it increasingly difficult to see clearly. It was already very difficult to see clearly within a distance of tens of meters. The surrounding space also consumed more and more primordial spirit and mystical chi power. That kind of feeling was like an ordinary person in the depths of an extremely high plateau. Walking a little further would cause one to gasp for breath. If one were to fight in such a situation, one would definitely be greatly affected. A huge deep canyon appeared. On both sides of the mountain peaks were towering trees, so tall that one could not see the top. The rocks and huge tree trunks were covered with ancient tree vines that were like giant pythons entrenched. This was an ancient canyon. The fog inside was so dense that one could not see clearly. Time runes flickered, as if they could still be spied on through force. Releasing one's mind, one could at most sense movements within a range of tens of meters. In front of a super expert, this distance was simply enough to kill with one strike. Fortunately, the cultivation and strength of the people in the divine domain were about the same. However, there were ancient demonic beasts whose cultivation and strength were not suppressed everywhere. Such a place was undoubtedly extremely dangerous, and no one dared to enter at all. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu, the woman surnamed Su, Yunmu, Big Lan and Little Lan appeared here. Looking at the deep canyon, Du Xiaofu also frowned. From Yunmu, Du Xiaofu learned that a few days ago, the woman who might be Dongli Qingqing and the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong, had passed through this forest with her 8 maidservants and killed many cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. This also aroused Yunmu's anger. He led a large number of cloud-swallowing wolf shrews to chase after them. However, he was unable to stop Lian Qingrong and Dongli Qingqing along the way. Instead, many cloud-swallowing wolf shrews were killed, causing Yunmu to fly into a rage. However, just 3 days ago, the woman who might be Dongli Qingqing and Lian Qingrong had directly entered the canyon in front of them. The canyon was too mysterious. Even Yunmu did not dare to bring the cloud-devouring wolf shrew in. In the end, he could only return in rage. On the way back, the more the cloud shrew thought about it, the angrier it became. It had originally planned to gather all the cloud-swallowing wolves and shrews to wait outside the gorge for those people to come out. However, when it heard that the lady with the surname Su and the rest were nearby, the cloud shrew's anger had yet to subside and it wanted to kill the lady with the surname Su and the rest. However, in the end, it encountered Du Xiaofu. Under Yun Mu's lead, Du Xiaofu's group avoided many dangers along the way. They even avoided 2 places with ancient incomplete formations and obtained several precious herbs. Finally, they arrived before the ancient gorge before them. "Master, this is the Valley of the Dead Souls." They entered this place. Yun Mu looked at the misty canyon, and there was still some lingering fear on his face. He revealed 2 protruding rat-like teeth and said, "This is the most dangerous place in the forest. Living beings who enter have never come out. My mother and father entered 1,000 years ago and never came out. This is a dangerous place." Du Xiaofu looked into the gorge, his eyes suffused with golden light. Under the invisible oppressive aura that pervaded the air, it made people look like an ancient ferocious beast with its mouth wide open, waiting for them to walk in and swallow them in one gulp. Rumor has it that there are precious treasures inside and it contains a huge secret. Many other demonic beasts have come to fight for it, but they have never come out. Yun Mu continued. Her father and mother had died inside and never came out again. This caused her to be fearful of the place. She did not dare to chase after those people as they entered. "I have to go in. You can wait for me outside." Du Xiaofu said to the lady with the surname Su and took a deep breath. No matter what dangers there were in the gorge, Du Xiaofu had to go in. It was also because of the huge danger inside that Du Xiaofu was even more anxious to go in. "I'll go in with you." The lady with the surname Su hesitated for a moment before saying to Du Xiaofu. She bit her red lips that had regained some color and her eyes were filled with brilliant colors. She quickly followed to Du Xiaofu's side and said, "Actually, you don't have to worry. That lady is very strong. Although that descendant of the Great Snow Mountain has the upper hand, it will be difficult for him to do anything to her. I have to find her as soon as possible." Du Xiaofu was still not at ease and was very anxious. Lian Qingrong's cultivation was not ordinary. It was very terrifying. Du Xiaofu had fought with her before, so he was very clear about Lian Qingrong's strength. He was afraid that something would happen to Dongli Qingqing. "Miss, wait for me." Big Lon and Little Lon also followed. Naturally, they had to stay by Mrs. side. As for Yun Mu, she plucked up her courage. With the influence of the blood-soul seal in her mind, she naturally chose to stay by Du Xiaofu's side. However, she was fully focused and careful along the way. Kacha sounds came from the ground of the canyon. It was not the withered branches on the ground, but the withered bones that had lost their luster. These were the bones of some human and demonic beast experts. However, at this moment, they seemed to have been eroded by the wind and were like ordinary bones. They had also been here for a very long time and would break with a single step. How terrifying! Big Lon and Little Lon trembled in fear. There were white bones everywhere, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard from time to time, causing one's hair to stand on end involuntarily. "Be careful," suddenly, Du Xiaofu spoke. His figure stood in place, and his body was covered in golden light. Walala, almost at the same time as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, a terrifying storm swept out from within the canyon. It was accompanied by the dazzling runes that were constantly flashing. It poured out like a torrent, accompanied by an aura that made people tremble. Its speed was as fast as lightning. This was the canyon. The terrifying and strange storm covered the entire canyon. There was no place to hide at all except for retreating. However, with the terrifying speed and the storm in front of them, Du Xiaofu had only just noticed it. How many people could escape in advance? The strange storm swept out, and Du Xiaofu was instantly swept up. It did not affect his physical body at all, but a terrifying power immediately surged into his primordial spirit. It could instantly make his primordial spirit tremble. It was as if countless poisonous needles had drilled into his primordial spirit. The destructive power was enough to instantly destroy the primordial spirit of an ordinary martial domain realm cultivator. Oh no, this storm contains a terrifying primordial spirit attack. Du Xiaofu's expression changed. He had been on guard for a long time. The void around him suddenly shone with a dazzling light. The illusory image of the dark nether grass took shape and enveloped the woman surnamed Su, Big Lan, Little Lan, and Yun Mu. This terrifying primordial spirit attack was extraordinarily terrifying, but it could not do anything to Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. The spiritual lightning in his mind directly destroyed it. Walala, the terrifying storm swept past and disappeared without a trace. It disappeared without a trace, as if it had never happened. Du Xiaofu kept the dark nether grass. The eyes of Big Lan, Little Lan, and the others were still trembling. They had already felt the aura of death just a moment ago. Many thanks. The woman surnamed Su said. Under that terrifying primordial spirit attack, she was caught unprepared. She could not resist at all. Be careful. Du Xiaofu warned the woman surnamed Su and the others. The primordial spirit attack just now would have destroyed the primordial spirit of an ordinary martial domain realm cultivator. No wonder Yunmu said that the creatures that entered the Dead Souls Canyon had never come out. It was truly terrifying. Whoosh 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 whoosh, not long after, within the thick fog in the canyon, strange runes flickered. They condensed into strange blades that pierced through the void like thousands of arrows. They carried a destructive power that was enough to pierce through the body of a martial domain realm cultivator. Golden light erupted from Du Xiaofu's body as the phantom of a great rock's golden wings condensed behind him. It enveloped the woman surnamed Su, Big Lan, Little Lan, Yun Mu, and the others. A supreme demonic beast's aura swept out. Clang clang, the rune blades landed on the golden talisman engravings around Du Xiaofu's body. Golden spears burst forth and sparks flew, but in the end, they did not pierce through the golden light. They shattered into runes and dissipated. Many of the remaining rune blades landed on the towering trees and rocks in the canyon, but they were not damaged at all. It was very strange. Walala, then, not long after the 5 of them moved forward, a gust of wind blew over like a blade. Not only could it destroy the physical body, it could also destroy the primordial spirit. Du Xiaofu continued to protect everyone as they charged out of the terrifying gust of wind. So scary. Under the successive shocking dangers, Big Lan and Little Lan had already gasped. Their legs had become rather weak. Be careful. We still have protective talismans, but you don't. The woman surnamed Su looked at Du Xiaofu. Her brows shone brilliantly as she said, "You don't have to protect us at the crucial moment. With protective talismans, we won't die." I know. I'm fine. Du Xiaofu nodded. In the vast fog, he lowered his head to examine a rock to the side. There was a huge, deep hole in the huge rock. The ground around it was covered in spiderweb-like cracks. It's her. It can't be wrong. We fought here. Du Xiaofu could be completely sure. There was still some remnant energy in the huge hole and the surrounding cracks. It was the energy of the Dongli Qingqing demon subduing arrow. This was not the first time Du Xiaofu had seen Dongli Qingqing use the demon subduing arrow, so he was very familiar with it and could not be wrong. Master, there's something shining in front. It's filled with energy. It seems to be a treasure. Yunmu suddenly spoke as she looked into the depths of the canyon. The canyon was already extremely wide, but it was still getting wider and wider. However, the thick fog was also getting thicker and thicker. At this moment, the fog was accompanied by a kind of dense energy that Yunmu could absorb. The reason why the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews had always chosen to stay in this forest was because absorbing the fog was extremely beneficial to them. Let's go. Be careful. Follow me closely. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered, and he immediately shot out. In the vast white fog, light shone brightly. It was the kind of rune that constantly flashed in this strange ancient forest. Du Xiaofu led the woman surnamed Su, Yunmu, and the others as they cautiously approached. Under the increasingly dazzling rune light, they could see clearly that there was actually an ancient ruin within the thick white fog. In the depths of the canyon, there was a stretch of broken walls. The bright rune light came from within the broken walls. Chapter 1638. It's an ancient ruin. The woman surnamed Su observed the large amount of broken walls in front of her. As she got closer, she could see many broken ancient buildings. This ruin was not small. In this strange forest, there was a terrifying canyon hidden within. It was filled with danger and was extremely dangerous. At the end of the canyon, there was actually a hidden ancient ruin hidden in another world. Something's not right. Although Du Xiaofu was worried about Dongli Qingqing, he wasn't in a hurry to get closer. He looked at the ancient ruin in front of him and carefully observed it. So that's how it is. What a big deal. After a while, Du Xiaofu's eyes rippled and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. After all, he had the heavenly spirit record and his attainments in formations weren't shallow. In addition to his pondering and investigation in the canyon, he finally understood the mysteries of this canyon. What did you find? The woman surnamed Su asked Du Xiaofu curiously. This place should be the remains of a powerful sect in the past. It's not large, but it might be an important place. Right now, in the ancient times, there must have been an intense battle here. The sect's formation was destroyed, but the remnants of the formation are still active. Some of the remnant formations in this ancient forest might be related to this place. The strange attacks in the canyon are also the result of the remnant formation. These remnant formations are getting weaker and weaker, but they must have been stronger in the past. Therefore, from ancient times until now, all the creatures that came in were attacked by the remnant formation. Very few survived. The reason why we could come in is probably because the remnant formation has been getting weaker and weaker recently. Du Xiaofu explored the surroundings and said to the woman surnamed Su. He had a rough understanding of this ruin. That's amazing. Xiaolan and Dalan were now admiring the god of war in front of them more and more. Shall we go in? The woman surnamed Su asked Du Xiaofu. Let's go in. Everyone should be careful. Du Xiaofu didn't let down his guard. Then, he walked into the ruins with the woman surnamed Su. On the ground, there were also eerie white bones everywhere. They were grayish-white, just like the white bones outside. They had lost their luster and looked just like white bones. Even in the ruins, the 5 of them had seen many huge skeletons of demonic beasts. Judging from the size of the skeletons, they must have been monstrously powerful demonic beasts when they were alive. This is my father and mother. They are both dead. Under a broken wall, Yunmu saw 2 small skeletons. His heart was filled with grief and tears actually flowed down his cheeks. Judging from the posture of the 2 skeletons, they seemed to be hugging each other. This proved that before they died, the 2 of them had been tightly hugging each other. Even in death, they had died together. They were connected by blood, so Yunmu could not be mistaken. That was her imperial father and the skeleton behind the scenes. The beast-controlling technique could make the cloud shrew submit, but it would not affect the cloud shrew's emotions and future cultivation. It would not turn the cloud shrew into a puppet. This was the outstanding aspect of the beast-controlling technique. My condolences. Du Xiaofu patted Yunmu's shoulder and said. At this moment, his heart was also moved and ripples were surging. Then, the cloud shrew buried the skeletons of her imperial father and imperial mother deep underground. There is movement in front. The lady surnamed Su said to Du Xiaofu. Looking into the depths of the ruins, there were still clouds and mist, but the energy fluctuations were getting stronger. The light that they saw just now was flickering in front of them, spreading a shocking aura. From time to time, there were talisman runes flickering. Be careful. Du Xiaofu slowly approached. He felt that Dongli Qingqing should have also entered this place. He was worried and moved forward. Crossing a broken wall, Du Xiaofu raised his eyes and felt a familiar aura. In front of him was a vast expanse of white mist. As talisman runes flickered, many figures appeared. There were 8 graceful figures, and they were graceful and moving. Who is it? At this moment, the 8 graceful figures also felt Du Xiaofu's aura and immediately turned around. 8 charming women, each of them beautiful and unparalleled. Waves of shocking icy aura also spread out in an instant. It's you. After seeing Du Xiaofu clearly, the 8 women's faces suddenly changed. Their eyes were secretly filled with absolute horror. Previously, they had suffered a great loss in the hands of Du Xiaofu. They knew that guy was a supreme Nirvana realm expert and his strength was very terrifying. Du Xiaofu ignored the 8 women. They were the 8 maidservants by Lian Qingrong's side. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes were fixed on the front. In a broken wall, there was a bright and dazzling light screen. It was shrouded in rolling mist and revealed talisman runes. It was filled with an extremely ancient aura, as if it was filled with a kind of fiend god qi. However, at this moment, Lian Qingrong and Dongli Qingqing were nowhere to be seen. Du Xiaofu's heart became heavier. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu's figure suddenly swept forward. He felt that there must be a strange change in the light screen. My young master is inside. Don't come near. Otherwise, we won't be polite. One of the 8 maidservants shouted. Although they were afraid of Du Xiaofu, they didn't shrink back at this moment. So Lian Qingrong is inside. Du Xiaofu frowned and directly swept forward without stopping. Back off. However, at the same time, the 8 maidservants formed a joint attack. The energy froze the void and a terrifying icy aura suddenly swept toward Du Xiaofu. You still dare to stop me? Du Xiaofu's mood wasn't very good at this moment. He shouted and a rolling purple flame suddenly swept out and turned into a huge purple flame demonic phoenix. Walala, in an instant, the purple flames were like a purple sun that blotted out the sky. Its might shook half of the void and carried with it a terrifying pressure of the world. It directly destroyed the cold qi and smashed into the 8 women like they were rotten wood. Puff 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 puff, the 8 maidservants spat out blood and their delicate bodies were all sent flying. They fell heavily to the ground and broke many broken walls. They were in a sorry state. Their faces were pale and their eyes were filled with shock. What a powerful guy. Is he really the god of war? Xiao Lan and the others happened to see this scene and were shocked. When the 8 maidservants joined forces, they also trapped their young miss. However, at this moment, this guy just raised his hand and sent the 8 of them flying and seriously injured. Qi La, Du Xiaofu's figure swept into the light screen and immediately suffered a huge recoil force that swept over him. It was as if he was going to be sent flying. At the same time, there was a strange life-devouring energy in the light screen that was going to devour his life force. So strange, the sudden change made Du Xiaofu immediately retreat. His expression changed slightly. Who dares to touch my people? Almost at the same time, a young man in a white battle robe rushed out of the light screen. His skin was like jade and his eyes were black and white. However, when the young man in white saw Du Xiaofu, his eyes suddenly twitched. He seemed to be a little surprised and said, "It's you. Lian Qingrong, you really don't want the successor of the Great Snow Mountain." Du Xiaofu looked at the young man in battle robe in front of him. Who else could it be but the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong? His eyes were cold and his expression was cold. It's that terrifying guy. Can the god of war still fight against him? Xiaolan and Dalan saw Lien Qingrong and trembled secretly. Their faces turned pale. They had seen the battle between supreme martial artists. It was so terrifying that they still had lingering fears. As for Yunmu, she originally wanted to find trouble with Lien Qingrong. Later, she found out how strong the human in front of her was. At this moment, she naturally did not dare to go up again. Lien Qingrong's eyes swept behind Du Xiaofu and saw Yunmu, the woman surnamed Su, and the others. Her eyes suddenly moved and she seemed to be a little surprised. Then, her thin red lips curved into a smile. She said with a smile, "I didn't expect you to send yourself to me again. You are really lucky." Hearing this, Xiaolan and Dalan could not help but instinctively feel a little afraid and took a few steps back. "Where is the woman you are chasing?" Du Xiaofu asked Lien Qingrong in a deep voice. "That woman has an extraordinary background. She ran in, but she will come out sooner or later. There is no way to break in. It has been 3 or 4 days. She won't be able to hold on for much longer." Lien Qingrong raised her eyebrows, looked at Du Xiaofu, and said, "There's no need to tell you about this. I've said it before. When we fight next time, I'll subdue you. Today is the time." Hearing Lien Qingrong's words, Du Xiaofu was secretly relieved. At least now Dongli Qingqing seemed to be fine. Lien Qingrong had chased her for several days, but she could not really do anything to Dongli Qingqing. "Young master." The 8 seriously injured maidservants climbed up and immediately stood behind Lien Qingrong. They looked at Du Xiaofu with more and more lingering fear. "Boy, you are provoking me." Seeing that her 8 maidservants were seriously injured and were all stained with blood, but he did not show any mercy to them at all, this made Lien Qingrong's face immediately become gloomy. "It is you who is provoking me." Du Xiaofu's eyes were cold. He had been angry for a long time. Knowing that Dongli Qingqing was fine for the time being, he could not bear it anymore. His figure directly rushed out, and his body burst out with golden light. The condensed rock's chaos claw tore the void and directly grabbed at Lien Qingrong. Rock descends to the 9th heaven. Domineering fist. Taiyin seal. Boom. Domineering fist. Du Xiaofu was fierce. Relying on his vigorous qi and powerful primordial spirit, he activated all kinds of methods at the same time. He opened and closed widely, and he was the only one in the world. In an instant, many phantoms of supreme beasts roared, and all kinds of terrible attack runes shone, shattering this side of the void, and the light shone brightly. Lien Qingrong was eyeing Su Muxin, and now she was thinking about Dongli Qingqing. They were all his women. Du Xiaofu was furious. He attacked like a storm without any mercy. Humph! Looking at Du Xiaofu's desperate attack, as if his wife had been snatched away, Lien Qingrong secretly changed color. She snorted and then quickly attacked one after another. Heavenly Ice Fist. Ice Prison. Soul Freezing Ice. Glacier 10,000 miles. Lien Qingrong's battle robe was covered by snow-like runes. She attacked like lightning, freezing the surrounding void. She was like the Snow Mountain War Emperor, and the sky was full of dazzling runes. Chapter 1639. The battle between the two of them instantly became intense, raising the surrounding area to the ground. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked, and the void exploded one after another. "Take my palm!" Du Xiaofu shouted. The Xiaoyang seal, the Taiyin seal, and the Xiaoyin seal overlapped and condensed into a hand seal. It appeared gold, black, and silver, and was crystal clear. A wave that made people's heart palpitate spread out. It contained a terrifying destructive power, and it was as fast as lightning, slapping towards Lien Qingrong. Void Ice Technique. Lien Qingrong's cold ice energy froze the world, exploded the void, and made the world boil, freezing thousands of miles. Rumble, in this battle, the runes were dazzling, and it was as if the world was falling apart. The surrounding ruins were trembling, and the earth was shaking. The broken walls and ruins were cracking and collapsing, revealing a large area of cracks on the ground. It's too terrifying. Looking at this battle, the woman surnamed Su, Yunmu, and Xiaolon retreated to the distance, and they were secretly trembling. Deng Deng, in the air, Du Xiaofu and Lian Qingrong were both shocked by the shocking energy, and the space behind them exploded and shattered. How could he be so much stronger? When Lian Qingrong stabilized her body, her hair fluttered behind her back. She looked at Du Xiaofu with surprise in her eyes. Lian Qingrong felt that in just a few months, the strength of the young man in front of her had improved by leaps and bounds. It was not just a little bit stronger than before, which made her feel inconceivable. Lian Qingrong naturally did not know that in these few months, Du Xiaofu had been comprehending the life-saving talisman, and his comprehension of various ultimates had improved by leaps and bounds. He had taken another big step towards the true self level, and his strength had also improved by leaps and bounds. But you're still not enough. One Nirvana level. Although you're a Nirvana level Grand Supreme, your cultivation level is an insurmountable moat. Lian Qingrong said. There was an indescribable majesty and transcendence, and she was also very confident. What? Nirvana of a Grand Sovereign? Hearing Lian Qingrong's words, Xiaolon and Dalan were very suspicious. They were feeling strange. From the conversation between the two of them, it seemed that the two of them had fought before. And now, the nirvana of a grand utmost exalted surprised them. Du Xiaofu looked at Lian Qingrong, and a smile that made one's heart tremble suddenly appeared in his cold eyes. He said, "Since you are so confident, then let me give you an appetizer first." As the sound of his voice faded, ancient runes gushed out from Du Xiaofu's body, instantly transforming into 8 resplendent and dazzling runes. After that, they faintly transformed into 64 ancient runes that flickered as a strange aura permeated the air, causing the space of the divine domain to tremble. Walala, then, the ancient runes seeped out of the void all around. It was as if they had turned into a rain of light that seeped into everything. Lian Qingrong's defense was unable to stop them. A rain of light fell between Lian Qingrong's eyebrows. Then, the life-saving amulet between Lian Qingrong's eyebrows directly cracked, then dimmed and disappeared. The 8 beautiful maidservants who followed Lian Qingrong also did not escape this calamity. The life-saving amulet between their eyebrows disappeared. They looked at each other in horror. In this space of the divine domain, losing the life-saving amulet was absolutely equivalent to losing one's life. There would not be a second chance. That kind of feeling made those who had really lost their life-saving amulet feel nervous. In this space of the divine domain, they had lost their most important support. My God, what's going on? Seeing that Du Xiaofu had actually made Lian Qingrong and the other life-saving amulets disappear, Xiaolon and Dalan were already dumbfounded. The woman surnamed Su was also trembling violently. This was really incredible. At this moment, not to mention the woman surnamed Su, Lian Qingrong was also shocked. He felt that the life-saving amulet between his eyebrows had disappeared. It was destroyed by Du Xiaofu, which was equivalent to killing him directly. How do you feel? Du Xiaofu said to Lian Qingrong with a smile that was not a smile. Boy, you've finally completely infuriated me. You'll pay for everything you've done later. Lian Qingrong finally changed his expression. His expression was ice-cold. At the same time, with his body as the center, dazzling white ice runes erupted. Boom! In an instant, Lian Qingrong's body was densely covered with dazzling runes. These runes were sparkling and translucent like ice. When they covered Lian Qingrong's body, it was like covering an ice armor. This was Lian Qingrong's pulse soul. In the level of pulse soul, it had reached the level of a half-step supreme being. Crash! In an instant, frost fell from the sky like falling glaciers. Everywhere was white and fluctuating in the void. Under the terrifying cold air, the woman surnamed Su, Dalan, Xiaolan, and Yunmu in the distance were already trembling from the cold. The blood in their bodies was about to freeze, their qi was about to solidify, and the cold air could even freeze and crack the primordial spirit. Competing with pulse souls. I'll keep you company. Du Xiaofu was not afraid. At the same time, he directly activated the thunder martial vein. The purple-gold lightning runes covered his body. Suddenly, the surrounding void was like waves of lightning, surging violently and dazzling the world. It directly destroyed a large area of cold air. Rumble, the thunderclouds in the sky suddenly rolled, and a supreme being's pressure descended. The surrounding purple-gold lightning clustered around Du Xiaofu, like a dazzling thunder sun in the sky, killing in all directions. Continue. Du Xiaofu shouted, and the thunder martial vein was activated. At the same time, the shadow of the rock's golden wings condensed behind his back. The rock soared to the 9 heavens, like the god of war, and his figure swept out. This side of the ruins was trembling, and the universe was roaring. With the sky full of purple-gold lightning, he directly pressed towards Lian Qingrong. What kind of martial vein is this? How can it be so strong? Lian Qingrong's heart was trembling. At this moment, even with her cultivation and talent, under the strange thunder martial vein, she was secretly trembling, as if she was facing a real pulse soul supreme. However, she was only surprised in her heart, and immediately made her move. Lian Qingrong was not a weakling. In the entire divine domain, there were only a few people who could be compared with her at this moment. Suddenly, a terrifying cold air erupted, turning the surroundings into glaciers. Countless icebergs descended, and countless icicles pierced through the void, as if this side of the world had turned into a world of ice. Du Xiaofu made his move, and the purple lightning illuminated the world, destroying everything. Under the support of the rock descending to the 9 heavens, Du Xiaofu was like a human-shaped rock, flapping his wings and sweeping, overbearing and fierce, as if he was the only one in the world. Rumble. The two people in the void fought fiercely, and it was like thunder in the sky, bursting out a series of rune light. Walala, the rune energy shot out, and it was as gorgeous as fireworks, causing the entire sky to be dazzling. Behind that dazzling light, there was a shocking pressure that could freeze thousands of miles, and kill everything. It was like destruction, and the surrounding void collapsed one after another. Lian Qingrong was more and more shocked. Last time, she felt that Du Xiaofu was not this strong, and was much weaker. At this moment, she actually had a feeling that it was difficult to suppress. And the other party was only at the nirvana level, which made Lian Qingrong very shocked. Finally, Lian Qingrong used her own pulse soul. Dazzling light swept out, and finally turned into a huge ice dragon that spanned thousands of feet in the void. This ice dragon had not been muddled, and it had already turned into a true spirit, which was equivalent to a living creature. The dragon's roar was like a wave of air, and it was vast and undulating like a tsunami. It carried a terrifying cold energy that swept out, as if it was covering the sky and earth, like a raging wave beating the shore, crossing the vast sky. Everywhere it passed, the void was frozen, and it turned into a glacier. Ancient Ice Dragon Pulse Soul. The woman surnamed Su could not help but exclaim. Even though she had seen the great Snow Mountain successor use this terrifying pulse soul in the battle with the fairy goddess, she still could not help but tremble. The ancient ice dragon was rumored to be a true pure-blooded dragon. When it was angry, it could freeze everything. Among the dragon's bloodlines, its bloodline was only inferior to a few dragons' bloodlines, and it had an extremely honorable status among dragons. It could be said that with the ancient ice dragon as the pulse soul, it would definitely not be inferior to an ordinary pulse soul. However, it was rare to be able to obtain such a pulse soul. Rumble. A silver-yellow electric arc shot out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows, and a majestic supreme being aura filled the entire ruins. It transformed into a huge red-bone horse ape, and a silver-gold electric arc shot up into the sky like a rising sun. When the red-bone horse ape appeared, the dragon eyes of the huge ancient ice dragon were trembling. Ao! The red-bone horse ape appeared. It was Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit, and also Du Xiaofu's pulse soul. When the two merged into one, its power was even more terrifying, and it directly pounced towards the ancient ice dragon. 3 types of spiritual lightning, the sovereign spiritual root, and the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique. With all of these combined into one, the red-bone horse ape could completely suppress the ancient ice dragon. Bang, 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 the red-bone horse ape waved its fist, and a terrifying aura spread out in a ring shape. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and everywhere it passed, the space would suddenly shatter. Red-bone horse ape pulse soul. Lian Qingrong's gaze trembled. He had only heard of the red-bone horse ape in legends, but he did not expect the kid in front of him to have a pulse soul. At this moment, the terrifying aura in the red-bone horse ape's body was very complicated, but its power was like that of a real sovereign, causing his pulse soul to tremble for no reason. Boom! The expression on Lian Qingrong's handsome face finally condensed together. At the same time, divine light flickered on his body like flames, condensing into 6 divine rings above his forehead, and a vast aura spread out. This was the power of a sovereign. A nirvana sovereign. Xiaolan and Dalan trembled once again. Lian Qingrong had already used his full strength. This was the power of a sovereign, and they had witnessed the strength of the war god. But at this moment, under the power of a sovereign, they couldn't help but be on edge for the latter once again. It's just a lesser sovereign's nirvana. Du Xiaofu no longer concealed his strength. At this moment, in front of Lian Qingrong, there was no way for him to hide anything. Everything was done with his full strength. In an instant, 9 divine rings condensed, causing the surrounding space to rumble, and the world to tremble, causing all living beings to tremble in fear. Oh my God, 9 rings, he is, Dalan and Xiaolan were dumbfounded, and they couldn't retract their jaws from the shock. Chapter 1640. He is a Nirvana Grandmaster, Demon King Du Xiaofu. The woman surnamed Su revealed Du Xiaofu's identity. She had recognized the Demon King at first glance. However, the Demon King had never seen him before, while she had seen the Demon King from afar. Demon King Du Xiaofu, he is the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Both Big Lan and Little Lan were completely shocked. Inside and outside of Kyushu, who hadn't heard of the Demon King Du Xiaofu's name? In the divine domain, the Demon King Du Xiaofu had killed thousands of people from the legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons. That battle had caused the entire divine domain to boil. However, Big Lan and Little Lan hadn't expected that the seemingly smug and resolute youth was actually the most ferocious Demon King Du Xiaofu. Rumble, the 9 divine rings were in the sky, and the heavenly music was unceasing. The resplendent radiance drowned out everything. Purple flames surged around Du Xiaofu's body, starlight filled the sky, and golden light illuminated the world. I'll let you know what a true Grandmaster is. Du Xiaofu shouted loudly. A Grandmaster's aura spread out from his tall and straight figure. Boundless heavenly might descended as he directly made his move. Fight! Under the surging heavenly might, Lian Qingrong's gaze also surged with some astonishment. However, she wasn't afraid. The pressure of the 6 divine rings, her comprehension, and her martial veins fused together. Waves of cold air burst out as she instantly confronted Du Xiaofu. This was another Grandmaster's battle. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the two of them had already exchanged more than 10 moves. Every time they collided, the surrounding space would shatter. There would be space collapsing, lightning wreaking havoc, and ice falling. Terrifying energy swept out, destroying everything into nothingness. The scene was terrifying. Bang bang bang. Symbols shone resplendently, causing the surrounding space to collapse. Pitch-black spatial cracks extended outwards, swallowing up the light that filled the sky, causing the Yuan spirits of the woman surnamed Su, Shaolan, and Yunxia to tremble in shock and horror. Is that the level of true self? Du Xiaofu's eyes were like a purple-gold sun, and purple-gold lightning arcs lingered on the surface of his body. He activated his immortal Xian body, and the 9 divine rings above his head intertwined with his body as he fought fiercely with Lian Qingrong. Du Xiaofu felt the power of Lian Qingrong, not to mention that Lian Qingrong was at the peak of the realm of true self. Nirvana of true self and Nirvana of Nirvana were separated by a layer of heaven. Fight, however, Du Xiaofu didn't retreat and instead advanced. His aura surged, making heaven and earth rumble. It was as if heavenly drums were beating as he fought against the true self. At this moment, Lian Qingrong's expression had already become truly solemn. His true self had reached nirvana, but at this moment, the more he fought, the more fearful he became. The opponent's nirvana level was too terrifying. The pressure of the Grand Supreme Being suppressed him directly. That terrifying attack was simply not like that of a cultivator of the nirvana level. How can he be so strong? Lian Qingrong's eyes were filled with shock. In this world, there were only a handful of people with the same level of cultivation that could make him pay attention to them. Those that he cared about were even rarer. He's using me to comprehend again. However, at this moment, Lian Qingrong had a feeling that if he was at the same level as the opponent, he would be suppressed directly. At the same time, Lian Qingrong felt that the kid was actually the same as last time, using him as a target to comprehend. This was tantamount to humiliating him. Snowy mountain covers the sky. His voice shook the void. Lian Qingrong didn't hold back anymore. A large snowy mountain condensed above the void, and that terrifying power caused the void to rumble and shatter. It suppressed Du Xiaofu. Rock striking the sky. Du Xiaofu shouted. The supreme strength condensed into the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged rock. A massive purple-gold thunder rock flapped its wings and flew out. Its eyes were like 2 blazing suns that illuminated the sky, overlooking the world. It released boundless overbearing pressure and emitted purple-gold lightning. Its claws tore the space apart, shattered the snowy mountain, and suppressed the heaven and earth. At this moment, in the depths of the light screen, there was an ancient damaged hull. On a high platform, there was an ancient bow that was hovering above the void. Walala, the ancient bow was filled with fog, and runes were flickering. The fog was monstrous, like a torrent that connected the clouds. The thick fog in the entire ancient forest seemed to have come from this ancient bow. The ancient bow released rays of light that resembled the chi of celestial demons. It spread in all directions and shrouded the surroundings. It was the same kind of light that existed in the center of the ruins, which could devour vitality. The strangest thing was that there was another bow that looked exactly the same under the ancient bow. It was shining brightly, and even though it was powerful, it was much weaker compared to the ancient bow. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would definitely recognize that it was the ancient bow in the hands of Dongli Qingqing. In this ancient ruin, there was actually an even more terrifying existence. The 2 ancient bows were hovering, reflecting each other's brilliance and releasing vitality. There was also the chi of celestial demons that spread in all directions. On the high platform, a fairy-like girl sat cross-legged. Her whole body was rippling in a dazzling green light. Mysterious runes lingered around her, and there was the chi of celestial demons circling around her. Her aura was constantly rising, and it was connected with the 2 ancient bows, affecting the heaven and earth. Outside the light screen, the astonishing battle was still going on. The terrifying energy that could shatter the void couldn't shake the strange light screen below. The strange light screen isolated all the energy outside. Heavenly Ice Blade. A halberd appeared in the hands of Lian Qingrong. It was a terrifying weapon with monstrous power. As soon as it appeared, the clouds in all directions moved. The white runes were gorgeous and rushed into the sky. The power was pervasive, and it could freeze the heaven and earth, sealing this ancient ruin in ice. Swish, the heavenly ice blade in the hands of Lian Qingrong released endless cold power, and slashed towards Du Xiaofu. The blade light froze the void, and pitch-black spatial cracks filled the void. Heavenly Palace of Violet Gold. At the same time, the Heavenly Palace of Violet Gold appeared in the hands of Du Xiaofu. There were the roars of dragons and tigers, the cries of birds and turtles, and also the cries of ghosts and gods. The sword light swept out like a bolt of violet gold lightning, turning into a thunderbolt, and immediately collided with the former's heavenly ice blade. Awoo! As if sensing the level of the heavenly ice blade, the soul of the heavenly palace of violet gold suddenly boiled, and couldn't wait to devour the heavenly ice blade. However, the heavenly ice blade in the hands of Lian Qingrong was definitely not inferior to the heavenly palace of violet gold. It was even stronger, and its power was too terrifying. However, the heavenly palace of violet gold was a divine weapon, and had too many mysteries. The soul of the weapon was even more abnormal, and could devour power. The blade light and the sword shadow shattered the void, and all of them contained the supreme power. The blade light and the sword shadow, all of them carried the mighty power of heaven and earth, and the collision caused the sky and earth to burn. The sound of golden spears resounded, and sparks bloomed like fireworks. Gugu, Big Lan and Little Lan's mouths were dry. The battle between supreme beings in the distant sky was much more terrifying than the battle between the woman and Lian Qingrong that they wanted to see a few days ago. Every move made them tremble with fear, and they felt as if their souls were about to leave their bodies. That kind of battle seemed like it was going to destroy heaven and earth. The surrounding ruins were collapsing, and the distant cliffs and canyons were also cracking open, crumbling, and freezing. Walala, quietly, within the light screen, there was a fluctuation. The mysterious runes of the talisman began to suffuse with divine light, quietly affecting the entire ruins. Above the void, there began to be abnormal movements of heaven and earth. Not long after, that strange light screen also began to crack. Rumble, in an instant, there was a strange phenomenon in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled everywhere. The entire ruins were boiling, and the heavenly might was vast, shaking all directions. The woman surnamed Su, the 8 maidservants, and the others watched with trembling eyes. They didn't know what was going on. Du Xiaofu and Lian Qingrong had long been aware of it, but they were still fighting fiercely. The blade light and the sword shadow were endless. Roar, the redbone horse monkey and the ancient ice dragon's soul were still roaring and fighting, tearing apart the void. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, resounding without end. Rumble, the strange phenomenon in the void suddenly appeared, and the astonishing battle also continued. All of this had already caused the ancient ruins to completely explode, destroying everything. The woman surnamed Su, the 8 maidservants, and the others were continuously retreating. Under that terrifying power, they couldn't touch it, and didn't dare to be affected in any way. Crack crack, that strange light finally completely disappeared and cracked. At this moment, the dense clouds and mist in the entire ancient forest were surging, and runes filled the sky. Inside the light screen, in an ancient and dilapidated palace, a beautiful woman appeared in the void. She was shrouded in bright light, and her figure gradually appeared. Under her green clothes, there was a beautiful arc that made people feel suffocated just by looking at it. It's her. In the distance, the woman surnamed Su, Delan, and Xiao Lan's eyes suddenly trembled. That woman who appeared had eyebrows like emerald feathers, and skin like snow. She was otherworldly, just like a fairy. And at this moment, the most shocking thing was that above her forehead, there were 7 strange divine rings that appeared. They were like resplendent emerald divine flames that were burning, illuminating the entire void of the ruins with a resplendent emerald light. Tsk tsk. Tisk. The strange 7 divine rings enveloped her. That woman opened her eyes, and the dazzling emerald light in her eyes materialized and shot out. It soared into the sky, causing heaven's might to surge. The hair behind her back fluttered as she absorbed the descending heaven and earth energy. Her entire body was suffused with light. She has stepped into the true self. Lien Qingrong looked over and saw the 7 emerald divine rings above her head. Her eyes that were covered by glaciers suddenly trembled fiercely, and she exclaimed, "Profound nirvana." "It's her, how could it be 7? Du Xiaofu had already looked over from the corner of his eyes. That fairy-like woman was Dongli Qingqing. That divine ring that was like 7 divine flames made Du Xiaofu feel astonished. This was the first time he had seen it. Dongli Qingqing looked ahead and saw Lien Qingrong and Du Xiaofu. Her eyes flickered, and then she waved her hand. The 2 ancient bows in the void immediately let out a rumbling sound. In a split second, that ancient bow with even greater power actually turned into a resplendent ray of light and swept into Dongli Qingqing's original ancient bow. The 2 actually fused into one in a strange manner. It was as if they were one in the first place. Boom! And at this moment, the ancient bow rumbled as if it was alive. Mysterious talisman patterns flickered, and fog filled the sky, affecting the entire ancient forest. The dazzling emerald light spread out like the sun, and the terrifying aura was like an ancient god awakening from its slumber, causing the void to change greatly. So powerful, Lien Qingrong's expression changed. She felt that the heavenly ice blade in her hand was also trembling in front of that ancient bow, being suppressed. Du Xiaofu's heavenly palace of purple gold in his hand was also crying like a ghost. It was afraid, but more excited, as if it wanted to devour that ancient bow, but it did not dare to get too close. Chapter 1641. Boom! At the same time, Dongli Qingqing's body also had a mysterious power awakening in an instant. The qi of gods and demons surged. She held the ancient bow in her hand and pulled it up. An energy light arrow was immediately released from the bow. Qi La. Qi. The energy light arrow swept out and shattered the space in its path. It pierced through the sky and directly swept towards Lien Qingrong's ancient ice dragon vein spirit. This arrow was accompanied by lightning and thunder. The green light dazzled the world and pierced through the ancient ice dragon's body. It devoured its vitality and corroded the runes. Roar! The ancient ice dragon roared. The dragon soared into the sky and its huge body rolled. The surrounding ice power was rolling, but it was unable to freeze that terrifying energy light arrow. Roar! In the blink of an eye, the red-bone horse monkey roared and hissed. Its aura was brimming with vitality as it communicated with the heavens and earth. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, revealing a kind of origin energy that came from the heavens and earth. Endless dazzling light burst forth as a fist that carried the destructive power of 3 types of spiritual thunders directly smashed into the ferocious head of the primordial ice dragon. Rumble, the void trembled. Under the bombardment of the energy arrow and the red-bone horse monkey, the clear and beautiful primordial ice dragon vein soul was finally unable to resist. It roared angrily and cracked, quietly turning into fragments. After that, it turned into broken and resplendent ice runes. It was as if the sky was filled with ice and frost that poured down from the void, like a dream. Puqi, the vein spirit, was shattered. At the same time, Lien Qingrong opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The vein spirit was shattered. This was an absolute heavy injury. You deliberately led me into this ruin. Lien Qingrong staggered back. She looked at the ancient bow in Dongli Qingqing's hand and seemed to have understood something. This ruin must be related to her. No wonder she disappeared after entering this canyon. After chasing me for so many days, it's time to pay the price. Dongli Qingqing did not say much. Her beautiful figure soared into the sky. She intended to join hands with Du Xiaofu to deal with Lien Qingrong. At this moment, she did not hold back her nirvana chi and covered the entire void. Lian Qingrong's eyes flickered. Facing Du Xiaofu in front of her, she was already helpless. At this moment, with the addition of that fairy-like moving woman, she was very clear that she was afraid that she would not be able to resist. You want to leave? Du Xiaofu's eyes glowed with purplish gold light as he formed hand seals. Ancient runes appeared on his body, and one rune turned into 8. The 8 ancient runes once again faintly turned into 64 runes. They were arranged in a mysterious way in the void, forming a pattern that was neither round nor square, enveloping the entire area. Boom! When these 64 ancient runes were arranged, the space of the divine domain trembled, and an ancient and strange aura seeped out from the void. In the void where the 64 ancient runes were arranged and twisted, the space solidified and the ripples in the void became chaotic. Lian Qingrong's eyes were filled with vigilance. In this frozen void, there was a terrifying power at this moment. There was wind, rain, thunder and lightning, there was a change in heaven and earth, and there was chaos in the mountains and lakes. It was enough to make his heart tremble. Not good. What kind of strange technique is this? In the next instant, Lian Qingrong discovered that she was trapped within. At that moment, as he moved, the entire space became chaotic, and it also bound her. It was as if she was trapped in a world and was completely controlled by the other party. Her heart instantly trembled. Not good. At this moment, Lian Qingrong's expression changed completely. Her eyes seemed to be filled with snow and glaciers moving. At this moment, she realized that she had underestimated the guy in front of her. Puff! Lian Qingrong's hand seals changed rapidly. She spat out a mouthful of blood essence and wrapped it in her hand seals. The runes on her body intertwined, and her body emitted a light like ice and snow. Boom! In an instant, the aura in Lian Qingrong's body soared, and the terrifying aura shook the void. The surrounding void and the 64 runes pattern that Du Xiaofu had just arranged were shaking. The aura and fluctuation made one's primordial spirit fearful, as if heaven and earth were about to shatter. Break! Lian Qingrong shouted. The terrifying aura erupted like a volcano, and the power soared in an instant. It broke through the rune pattern space that Du Xiaofu had arranged, causing the surrounding void to be filled with cracks. Taiqing demon subduing arrow. But at the same time, Dongli Qingqing made her move. 3 arrows in a row pierced through the void. The chi of fiend gods rolled, and the bright green light was dazzling. Wherever the arrows passed, the void was filled with cracks. It was too fast. Lian Qingrong, who had just escaped, had no time to avoid it. She tried her best to block it. Dong, but Lian Qingrong only blocked 2 arrows. The third arrow was like a green thunderbolt, emitting a bright green light, causing the void to constantly collapse and collapse. Finally, it pierced through Lian Qingrong's palm. There were white runes and dark red blood pouring out. Puff! Lian Qingrong spat out blood again. At the same time, her figure was also shaken back. Like a flash of lightning, she rushed to the side of the 8th maidservant without any pause. She burst into a white light and took the 8th maidservant away quickly. That speed was too fast. Dongli Qingqing was 1 step slower. She wanted to continue to chase, but looking at Du Xiaofu, who was suddenly in a daze, she did not chase after them. Still lacking a bit. Du Xiaofu was in a daze. There were 8 runes flickering in front of him. There were mountains and lakes moving, golden light resplendent, colorful light dazzling, lightning filling the air, mist faintly discernible, and flames rising. The first life, the second life, the third life, the fourth life, the fifth life, the wandering soul, the returning soul, the 8 ancient runes lingered. They were all comprehended by Du Xiaofu from the life-saving talisman. Afterwards, the 8 ancient runes quietly dissipated. He murmured softly, still lacking a bit. Du Xiaofu withdrew his aura and his gaze became clear again. His soul turned into a silver-gold arc of lightning, shooting into his forehead. As the violet celestial tower boiled, it was also withdrawn into the celestial tower within him. Looking at Dongli Qingqing before him, a faint smile spread across his face. He said, "Fortunately, you're fine. Otherwise, I would definitely have torn that successor of the Great Snow Mountain apart." Dongli Qingqing glanced at the woman surnamed Su in the distance. She knew why Du Xiaofu had appeared here. She was moved and her heart rippled. She opened her red lips slightly and said, "I'm fine. This place is connected to the ancestors of my clan. The spirit of my demon-subduing Tai Ching Bao has always been here. It has finally returned. How terrifying." Du Xiaofu looked at the ancient Bao in Dongli Qingqing's hand and his heart trembled inside. The Bao was extraordinary. Its power was even more terrifying than the true saint weapon of legalism, the halberd of the sacred void. "This is the treasure of my clan. It's a medium-grade saint weapon." Dongli Qingqing rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu, then put away the demon-subduing Tai Ching Bao in her hand. "Just what is the background of your clan?" Du Xiaofu asked curiously. Back in the Great Luan sect, he had heard the fourth elder, Jialo Yi, mention that Dongli Qingqing came from a large clan, but it seemed to have gradually declined. "It's too important. It's related to the ancient times. But now, I'm the only one left. The Great Luan sect was only left behind by my clan's ancestors in the outside world. They are my clan's converts. It's a long story. I'll tell you later," Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. She had entered the divine domain this time to find the lost spirit of the demon-subduing Tai Ching Bao other than to obtain the legendary greatest fortune. With the clues on her body, Dongli Qingqing finally found the approximate location. In the end, she met the successor of the Great Snow Mountain outside. Then, she entered the canyon ruins with the clues on her body. Du Xiaofu nodded and did not ask any more questions. He said to Dongli Qingqing, "You should stay by my side in the future. Don't come and go like a ghost. I'm worried. You're still at the Nirvana realm, and I'm already at the Nirvana realm. What are you worried about?" Dongli Qingqing rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu, but her heart was moved. Her delicate face was a little rosy, and she was tender and beautiful. She knew that he cared. "Then I'll follow you." Du Xiaofu did not mind. He smiled and said, "Anyway, it's fine as long as you're by my side. Dragons, school of vertical and horizontal, legalism. There aren't enough people looking for trouble with you." Dongli Qingqing said. "You're my woman. Even if I die, I won't let you be in danger." Du Xiaofu looked at Dongli Qingqing seriously. He paused for a moment and said, "I know what happened on Tianhuang mainland back then. I'll take responsibility." Dongli Qingqing was stunned. When they were on the Great Will sect, she guessed that he might know at a glance that the seductive woman who disguised herself as a man back then was also by his side. "She told you?" Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu. Her slender hands clenched her sleeves, and she felt a little helpless. Back then, everything happened in the illusion realm. Her primordial spirit was affected, and that was why that happened. However, at this moment, she felt like she was a thief. Chapter 1642. Even I know about it. Du Xiaofu gazed at Dongli Qingqing. He took a step forward in the air and held her hands that seemed to be at a loss. "Back then, you left without saying goodbye because of this, right? No matter what, you are my woman. I will definitely take responsibility." "Who wants you to take responsibility?" Dongli Qingqing wanted to pull her hands back, but discovered that he was holding them tightly. She was unable to free herself. After struggling for a while, she decided to give up. However, at this moment, her cheeks were so red that it seemed like water could be squeezed out. She rolled her eyes and glared at Du Xiaofu. If you don't want me, I will still take responsibility. Du Xiaofu said very seriously. Gazing at Dongli Qingqing, he said seriously, then it's settled. In your dreams, on Dongli Qingqing's exquisite face, her charming eyes glared at Du Xiaofu. She kept feeling that something was wrong. She seemed to be at a disadvantage, but she couldn't put her finger on it. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, has a close relationship with that beautiful woman. Seeing the conversation between Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing, Big Lan and Little Lan were astonished. No wonder the Demon King had rushed here with no regard for his life. So it turned out that the beautiful woman actually had a close relationship with him. The woman surnamed Su looked at Dongli Qingqing. Such an exquisite and peerlessly beautiful woman made her pale in comparison. She didn't say anything. Walala, at this moment, the ancient ruins in the surroundings were almost completely destroyed. The mist that shrouded the vast world was also slowly dissipating. Let's leave this place first. Du Xiaofu pulled Dongli Qingqing through the air and landed beside the woman surnamed Su. Looking at Yunmu, he suddenly thought of something and said, Yunmu, can you find that guy who just escaped? No problem. He's severely injured and can't run far. Even if he's in here, give me some time and I'll be able to find him. Yunmu was full of confidence. Search immediately. Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a malicious smile, and a faint cold light flashed across his eyes. Yes, master. As soon as Yunmu finished speaking, his body was instantly suffused with light while a sharp and strange squeaking sound suddenly resounded from his mouth, and it pierced through space and spread towards the distance. Creak creak, soon after, there were many strange squeaks echoing outside the ruins canyon, and then they gradually disappeared. Master, I believe that it won't be long before we receive news. That fellow won't be able to escape. Yunmu said. She seemed to be eager to see the world plunged into chaos. However, she did not dare to look Dongli Qingqing in the eye. Back then, she had led a group of people to attack Dongli Qingqing. From the looks of it, her relationship with her master was not a small matter. It's the cloud-swallowing wolf shrew. Hearing Yunmu's voice, Dongli Qingqing was a little surprised. She recognized Yunmu's identity. Back then, the densely packed cloud-swallowing wolf shrews had caused her a lot of trouble. Well, she will follow us in the future. Du Xiaofu nodded. With the beast-controlling technique, Yunmu would be loyal. In this space of the divine domain, it seemed to be even more useful. You want to find the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain? Dongli Qingqing's eyes moved slightly. Since he dared to touch my woman, I naturally can't let him off easily. I'm not done with him. Du Xiaofu said. Lian Qingrong had suffered an absolute injury, and now was the best time to deal with him. Du Xiaofu had a lot of experience in beating a drowning dog. He has suffered a serious injury. It's time to deal with him, but after all, he is at the peak of the nirvana real self. If he is anxious, even if we can kill him together, I'm afraid we will have to pay a heavy price. Dongli Qingqing helplessly glanced at Du Xiaofu and said sternly. A nirvana real self was at the last moment, and once he went all out, it was absolutely terrible. Even if we can't kill him, we have to make him suffer. Du Xiaofu didn't intend to let that guy go easily. He wanted to take advantage of his illness to kill him. After that guy recovered from his injury, it would be difficult to deal with him. In this space of the divine domain, Du Xiaofu knew that he had a lot of enemies. Even if he couldn't kill that guy, he absolutely couldn't let him recover in peace. Otherwise, it would be a problem in the future. That's true. If we join forces, we won't be afraid of him. Dongli Qingqing nodded. She and the guy in front of her had been together for so long. They had met in the Savage Beast mountain range and honed together in the dark forest. She naturally understood his character. Swoosh swoosh, after a while, several people left the ruins and retreated from the canyon. They didn't encounter any more danger, and the ancient remnant formation had completely disappeared. In the vast ancient forest, there were no more runes flickering from time to time, and the thick fog began to dissipate. However, the clouds that covered the sky had existed for countless years, and it wouldn't dissipate in a short period of time. With Yunmu around, the group would not encounter too many dangers in this ancient and cold forest. Hence, they felt much more relaxed. Why does your Nirvana real self have 7 divine rings? In the ancient forest, Du Xiaofu asked Dongli Qingqing curiously. It's related to the profound that I've comprehended. I've made some progress in the divine domain, and the divine domain is filled with mysteries unknown to mortals. With the help of the Taiqing demon subduing Bao's soul, I was able to make further progress and break through the Nirvana real self. Dongli Qingqing said, I was originally a lesser sovereign Nirvana real self, and now it should be the legendary natal sovereign Nirvana real self. It's also called Nirvana real self. It's using one's own profound to achieve enlightenment. Natal sovereign Nirvana real self. Du Xiaofu seemed to be touched. The natal sovereign Nirvana real self seemed to be a step further than the lesser sovereign Nirvana real self. Half-step sovereign, lesser sovereign Nirvana real self, natal sovereign Nirvana real self, grand sovereign Nirvana real self, Du Xiaofu murmured in his heart. He suddenly thought of something. Among the various Nirvana levels, could the grand sovereign Nirvana real self be the end? The lesser sovereign Nirvana real self could go one step further to the natal sovereign Nirvana real self, or even the grand sovereign Nirvana real self. But if the grand sovereign Nirvana real self wasn't the end, then what could one achieve? Pondering in his heart, Du Xiaofu lowered his head and walked in the forest. However, he fell into deep thought. Could his grand sovereign Nirvana real self go one step further? If he could succeed, it would allow him to ascend again. Is the grand sovereign Nirvana real self the end? Du Xiaofu asked Dongli Qingqing. As far as I know, the grand sovereign Nirvana real self is the end since ancient times. There aren't many people who can step into the grand sovereign Nirvana real self in this world. Dongli Qingqing said. Looking at Du Xiaofu, her eyes rippled and said, however, what I know is also limited. Perhaps in ancient times, when geniuses were everywhere and sovereigns were everywhere, there were sovereigns who had stepped into the grand sovereign Nirvana real self. Even if it's the end since ancient times, can I take another step? Du Xiaofu said softly. The grand sovereign Nirvana real self was also a path taken by the predecessors. However, if he wanted to take another step forward, where should he go? The path in front of him was full of confusion, and he couldn't find a place to settle down. What are they talking about? I don't understand. Hearing the conversation between Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing, Dalan and Xiaolan felt like they were in the clouds. They couldn't understand at all. The woman surnamed Su smiled at the two girls and said, if you can understand, you won't be far from taking another step forward. Squeak squeak, all of a sudden, a familiar squeaking sound rang out from the quiet forest. The ground began to tremble. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a few cloud-swallowing wolf shrews quietly emerged from the ground and squeaked at the cloud dog as if they were trying to say something. After that, they quietly burrowed back into the ground and disappeared. Master, I found traces of that guy. It's not far ahead. Yunmu said to Du Xiaofu. He, Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a smile. Since he found that guy, he naturally couldn't let him have an easy time. Swish. Several hours later, in a valley in the vast forest, thick fog billowed. Suddenly, there was a violent energy fluctuation, and a purple-gold lightning sword slashed down from the void. When this sword appeared, lightning surged, and the void was shattered. A pitch-black spatial crack swallowed everything and directly fell down. Rumble, the entire valley was split open, and a huge ravine was formed. Gravel shot out, and the earth shook. Bastard! Sharp curses rang out in the void, and then everything disappeared. In the messy valley, there were some bloodstains, but Lien Qing's face was nowhere to be seen. He escaped quite quickly. Continue the chase. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared, and he put away the purple gold heavenly tower. Rumble. Several hours later, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled on a cliff, and a purple thundercloud suddenly appeared. Zalala, terrifying lightning descended, and it was like purple pythons shuttling through the void. In an instant, the entire cliff was destroyed and turned into ashes. Some people vomited blood, and some left dark red bloodstains in the ruins, but there was no one. That person from the great snow mountain ran faster than a rabbit. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared on the ruins, and he cursed in a low voice. Swish, swish, swish. One day later, on the mountain peak in the thick fog, there was a sudden burst of green light. Lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. 3 energy arrows suddenly pierced through the void, and the surrounding heaven and earth energy fluctuated violently, swallowing life and shattering the void. Someone vomited blood, and blood stains were left on the flattened mountain peak, but there was still no sign of the person. He escaped again. He really is the father of a rabbit, running so fast. Du Xiaofu appeared in the void, and he was filled with hatred. He couldn't even catch up. Master, that guy's injuries should be getting worse. He can't escape. Yunmu smiled, and his rat-like teeth protruded. He continued to inform the cloud-devouring wolves in the forest to search. There was no way to escape their search. Next time, I must be prepared. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Although Lien Qingrong had escaped several times in a row, he reckoned that Lien Qingrong's injuries were getting worse. That pitiful sovereign. Big Lon and Little Lon followed behind, and their eyes were filled with shock. They could be considered to have witnessed the tragic process of the birth of a sovereign with their own eyes. That successor of the great snow mountain, a dignified Nirvana sovereign, was originally so valiant and powerful, but now in front of this demon king, he was being chased everywhere and fled in a sorry state. Presumably, that sovereign's heart is definitely not feeling good right now. Big Lon and Little Lon sighed in their hearts. Big Lon and Little Lan's guess was right. At this moment, Lien Qingrong's heart was not only not feeling good, he was simply vomiting blood continuously. Lien Qingrong really didn't know how that kid knew where he was hiding. Although the several attempts to kill him didn't really do anything to him, and he was discovered in time, it also made him have to protect the 8 maidservants, and he suffered heavy injuries in a panic. Within this strange forest, it consumed a lot of Xian Qi and essence spirit energy. Although it seemed to have become more relaxed recently, it wasn't much better. Coupled with the continuous heavy injuries, even though Lien Qingrong was continuously consuming pills, it was difficult for it to have much effect. Especially when his meridian spirit was shattered. If he wanted to recover, he would need an extremely long time. A shattered meridian spirit was an absolute heavy injury that couldn't be recovered in a short period of time. After a series of attacks, this successor of the Great Snow Mountain was already getting weaker and weaker. A dignified Nirvana sovereign was already infamous thousands of years ago. When Lien Qingrong entered the space of the divine territory, he was originally arrogant enough to look down on the world. Who would have thought that he would be in such a sorry state right now? Chapter 1643. Wait until I recover. I won't let that brat go. Lien Qingrong was furious, but at this moment, she was even more aggrieved, extremely aggrieved. Inside the abyss shrouded in fog, Lien Qingrong set up a formation around her before entering the abyss to heal. The severe injuries on her body made her almost powerless to escape. If it weren't for the continuous use of pills, she would have collapsed long ago. Voila, a moment later, inside the cave, Lien Qingrong sat cross-legged. After consuming some more natural treasures, snow-white runes surrounded her body. Inside the cave, the 8 beautiful maidservants were also sitting cross-legged, circulating their energy to heal their wounds. They were also in a sorry state and weak state, having suffered heavy injuries. However, it was clear that not much time had passed. In less than 4 hours, Lian Qingrong, who was shrouded in light, suddenly woke up. The light in her eyes was like snow, and her aura was sharp and cold. They've caught up again. Lian Qingrong's face twitched fiercely. Her expression was gloomy and ugly. The light on her body instantly retracted, and with a surge of bright white light, she disappeared from the cave with the 8 maidservants. Whoosh whoosh, in the blink of an eye, there was a bright white light from the abyss that tore through the void like lightning, instantly breaking through the air. Rumble. However, at the same time, the void around the entire abyss suddenly twisted and changed color. With a rumbling sound, the wind and clouds surged. The void was distorted, and an energy barrier enveloped it. In the vast space, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Vast dark clouds gathered, and a huge formation suddenly appeared in the sky. That demon king is actually a talisman master. In the distance, Dalan and Xiao Lan looked at the formation that suddenly appeared in the distance. The terrifying aura emanating from the formation made them tremble in fear even though they were far away. It was definitely not an ordinary formation. This time, that successor of the Great Snow Mountain probably won't be able to escape so easily. The woman surnamed Su spoke. Looking at the terrifying formation in the distance, her beautiful eyes were also filled with waves. Chi la la, within the formation, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The terrifying aura was like a tide, and runes flickered like a rain of light. A vast and terrifying aura swept out, and several figures were shaken out of the void. Their figures were revealed. It was Lian Qingrong and the 8 maidservants who had just escaped. Not good, Lian Qingrong's expression changed greatly. She looked at the big formation in the void. It was not simple. No wonder she was wondering why the boy did not attack directly like the previous times. It turned out that he had set up a big formation secretly. At this moment, the 8 maidservants' faces were still deathly pale. One of the maidservants said to Lian Qingrong, "Sir, we are a burden to you. You should leave alone and don't worry about us. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape. Don't mention this again. You are my maidservants. How can I not care about you?" Lian Qingrong shouted in a low voice. She looked around and then looked at the void and said, "Come out, why are you hiding? I'm setting up a formation here openly. You're the one who's been hiding all along, aren't you?" With that, Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing's figures emerged from the formation. Looking at Lian Qingrong, Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. Thanks to the thick fog in the forest, which could block the breath and energy fluctuations, he was able to set up the formation smoothly. Otherwise, the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain would have been alerted. Du Xiaofu looked at Lian Qingrong with a faint smile and said, "Continue to escape." "Why don't you escape?" Looking at Du Xiaofu, Lian Qingrong's handsome face twitched. Her eyes were cold. She glanced at Dongli Qingqing. Facing the two people, her life-saving talisman had disappeared. In her current situation, she was very clear about the consequences. "Boy, you don't have a life-saving talisman either. Even if you join forces, it will be a life and death struggle. It won't benefit anyone." Lian Qingrong's face was gloomy. What she said was the truth. Even if she was seriously injured and extremely weak, if it really came to the last step, everyone would be in a life and death struggle. No one would benefit. "Really? Didn't you want to subdue me? Why do you want to fight to the death now?" Du Xiaofu looked at Lian Qingrong with a smile and said, "You want to fight to the death. It's hard to say whether I will die in the end. However, you will definitely die. So, I won't lose out. The one who will lose out is you. I don't mind doing this deal." "You," Lian Qingrong's face twitched violently. She had never thought that there would be a Nirvana reincarnator who dared to be so arrogant in front of her. At this moment, she was helpless. No need to say more. You have to pay the price for chasing me for so long. Dongli Qingqing said with a clear voice. Her clear eyes revealed a fierce look. She directly called out the Taiqing demon subduing Bao. Terrifying fiend god Qi swept out. The light was dazzling, causing the entire formation to be stirred. In an instant, the Bao was released and 3 arrows directly pierced through the space. Qi! 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 The 3 arrows bloomed brightly and illuminated the formation. The 3 pitch-black space cracks swallowed the light, distorted the void, and swept toward Lien Qingrong like lightning. All of you be careful. Lien Qingrong's expression changed greatly. She said to the 8 maidservants behind her. In a panic, she had already used all her strength. She called out the heavenly ice blade and placed it in front of her. She erupted with a vast aura. Her eyes were like moving glaciers, and the surroundings were covered in white snow. PFFF, 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 the 3 energy light arrows were blocked by the heavenly ice blade. The golden halberd clanged and the runes shattered. The 3 energy light arrows were blocked and dissipated. However, Lien Qingrong's body was continuously shaken and she spat out 3 mouthfuls of dark red blood. Pong, pong, pong. At the same time, several attacks from the formation were like thunder. They directly engulfed Lien Qingrong's body and caused her to bleed again. Qi. This was within the formation that he had set up. Du Xiaofu's figure strangely appeared in front of Lien Qingrong, who was continuously shaken. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a strange smile. At this moment, this was within the formation that Du Xiaofu had set up himself. It was also within the space of the God domain. There would be no stronger experts coming in to spy on them. Finally, he could reveal his final trump card. A strange smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. At the same time, a purple flowing light accompanied by purple thunderclouds swept out from Du Xiaofu's palm. Lightning flowed. Suddenly, an aura that made people's hearts palpitate immediately pervaded the air. Rumble. The purple flowing light expanded in an instant. It was a huge purple 3-legged cauldron that was thousands of feet long. Mysterious lightning patterns spread on it, and thunderclouds rolled in the vast sky around it. The wind and clouds in the void of this formation suddenly changed color. Streaks of thunder exploded, filled with palpitating lightning, and a monstrous aura of destruction pervaded the air. That is, at this moment, Lien Qingrong raised her head. The depths of her mind suddenly trembled and throbbed. That aura of destruction made her soul tremble. Go! Du Xiaofu's hand seals condensed. The 3-legged cauldron instantly turned upside down and rotated. The surrounding space was completely distorted, revealing a huge deep hole, like a black hole. Around this strange black hole, purple thunderclouds surged endlessly. The black hole seemed to have merged with the void. Streaks of purple lightning were densely packed, like a purple waterfall hanging in the void. A powerful thunderous pressure emanated from it, capable of destroying all things. Boom! The 3-legged cauldron turned upside down, like a black hole descending. This was the purple thunder profound cauldron. Purple electric arcs with terrifying energy fluctuations pervaded from it. The surrounding space, along with the zzz sound of the purple electric arcs pervading the air, collapsed inch by inch. Rumble, streaks of purple lightning rushed out of the thunderclouds. Purple lightning flowed in the rolling thunderclouds. After a moment, dazzling purple electric arcs poured down. In an instant, countless thunderbolts fell from the sky, densely covering the surrounding space. Oh no! At this moment, Lien Qingrong really felt a chill spreading from the bottom of her heart. In front of this amazing thunder power, her primordial spirit was trembling. Boom! Lien Qingrong broke out with all her strength. White snow rolled all over the sky, freezing the space, and the ice sky blade struck out, but everything was useless. That frightening purple electric arc black hole, accompanied by an unstoppable destructive force, enveloped Lien Qingrong within, unable to resist. Then, everything in front of her eyes turned pitch black. The purple thunder profound cauldron turned upside down, enveloping Lien Qingrong and the 8 frightened maidservants in the distance. Finally, it shrank in an instant, turned into a purple electric arc, and swept back to Du Xiaofu's palm, quietly disappearing. He, Du Xiaofu smiled. This time, he finally did not let the successor of the Great Snow Mountain escape. After being kept in the purple thunder profound cauldron, that guy could not escape. Chapter 1644. Dongli Qingqing was not surprised by Du Xiaofu's purple thunder profound cauldron. She had already obtained the divine thunder body tempering technique back in the Tianhuang continent. Back on the Tianhuang cliff, Du Xiaofu had used the purple thunder profound cauldron to help the Tianhuang leopard, blue fantasy, scarlet rock, scarlet pheasant, and other divine thunder body tempering techniques. She was there. He has a great background. What do you plan to do with him? Dongli Qingqing asked Du Xiaofu. She did not expect to be able to keep the successor of the Great Snow Mountain in the Divine Thunder Cauldron. You know the origin of the Great Snow Mountain? Du Xiaofu was a little curious. He had only heard of the Great Snow Mountain from Su Muxin and Qi Yeshi, and it seemed to be related to some ancient inheritance. I know a little. Rumor has it that the Great Snow Mountain has existed since the Great Dragon Phoenix Tribulation, but there are very few of them. The outside world doesn't even know where the Great Snow Mountain is, but every time they enter the world, they will tell the world that they came from the Great Snow Mountain. They travel everywhere and seem to know everything in the world. It is said that they have always been promoting the deeds of the Dragon God and the Supreme Expert who stopped the great calamity of heaven and earth, warning the world that if the great calamity of heaven and earth were to happen again, it would be the end of the world. The Great Snow Mountain was once called School of Novelists by the world, along with Buddhism, Taoism, Moism, School of Famous Scholars, School of Yin-Yang, School of Vertical and Horizontal, and so on. However, because of their small ways, they were not valued by the world and eventually died out. Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu and said, I've only heard of it. Whether it's true or not has yet to be verified. After all, it was a long time ago. The School of Novelists has always promoted the deeds of the Supreme Expert who stopped the great calamity of heaven and earth and the Dragon God. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched. If the successor of the Great Snow Mountain was related to the Dragon God and the master of 3,000 cosmoses, he could not do anything to that kid. What do you plan to do with him? He is the successor of the Great Snow Mountain. I think he is the only successor of the Great Snow Mountain now, said Dongli Qingqing. Let's go and ask him. Du Xiaofu pondered for a moment. Then, he summoned the purple thunder profound cauldron again and controlled it with the pulse soul red pheasant monkey's body. Since they were inside the formation, he was not afraid that the purple thunder profound cauldron would be exposed. He brought Dongli Qingqing into the purple thunder profound cauldron. Rumble. Above the purple lightning profound cauldron, purple thunderclouds roiled as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The terrifying aura of destruction caused the 8th maidservant's heart to palpitate in fear. Divine Thunder Cauldron, that's the Divine Thunder Cauldron. That brat is controlling a Divine Thunder Cauldron. In the void, Lien Qingrong's white battle robe was stained with blood. On her pale face, her eyes were trembling, as if she had seen the most shocking thing. He actually knows about the Divine Lightning Cauldron. Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing appeared in the void. Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and the rolling purple thunderclouds around them also disappeared quietly. Who the hell are you? Why do you have a godly thunder cauldron on you? Lien Qingrong stared at Du Xiaofu, her gaze fluctuating. You know quite a lot. You can recognize the godly thunder cauldron. Du Xiaofu said. There are 9 godly thunder cauldrons. They were suppressing the evil spirits in Kyushu. Rumor has it that they have already disappeared. How can one be on you? Could it be that you are related to the evil spirits? Lien Qingrong suddenly trembled and revealed a shocked expression. You are the one who is related to the evil spirits. Du Xiaofu stared at Lien Qingrong and said, How much do you know about the godly thunder cauldron? Why should I tell you? Do you think you can do anything to me just because you can trap me? Lien Qingrong stared at Du Xiaofu. That brat indeed did not seem to be related to the evil spirits. The corner of her mouth curved into a cold smile, full of arrogance. Even if she was already a prisoner, she was still proud. Because this is my territory. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. Falling into your hands means that my cultivation is not enough. I have let down the sect, unable to fulfill my promise to revitalize the sect. I have let down the ancestors of the sect. Lien Qingrong said with a somewhat melancholy expression. Then she looked straight at Du Xiaofu and said, But brat, do you think you can make me bow my head just because you can trap me now? You can kill me, but I, the successor of the great snow mountain, will never bow my head. If you want to know anything from me, you should give up. It doesn't matter. If you don't tell me, I can search your primordial spirit. When the time comes, I will refine your body into a puppet. Its power will definitely be extraordinary. Du Xiaofu said. Brat, you are still too young. I know your primordial spirit is not weak, but unfortunately, if you want to search my primordial spirit, I'm afraid you still can't do it. You can use the divine thunder cauldron to trap me, but I guarantee that before you can touch me, if I want to self-destruct, you will not be able to stop me. You will get nothing. Lien Qingrong sneered. He was the only successor of the great snow mountain. His name was Lien Qingrong. Even if he died, he would never let anyone touch his body and primordial spirit. That would be an insult to him. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu was stunned. Although he had a lot of confidence in the power of his primordial spirit, he was still afraid that he would not be able to stop the successor of the great snow mountain from self-destructing. Du Xiaofu did not care if the successor of the great snow mountain self-destructed. However, this guy still had a divine implement on him. If he self-destructed, it would be a great loss. Moreover, this guy seemed to be related to the Lord of the 3,000 sectors and the Dragon God. It doesn't matter if you self-destruct. When you die, your maidservants are not bad. They should be able to be sold for a good price. It should not be a problem to exchange them for a few treasures. Du Xiaofu said indifferently. It was obvious that this guy cared a lot about the maidservants around him. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Dongli Qingqing could not help but secretly glare at Du Xiaofu. Boy, what do you want to do? At this moment, Lien Qingrong's expression suddenly changed. To him, the 8 maidservants seemed to be more important than his own life. Shameless guy, you want to use me to threaten my master? Dream on. The 8 maidservants glared at Du Xiaofu. Almost at the same time, the aura of the 8 maidservants surged and shone brightly. She was going to self-destruct to prevent her master from being threatened. Chi. In the void, several fingerprints had already swept out and turned into handprints that imprisoned the 8 maidservants at the same time. Rumble, Lien Qingrong wanted to intervene, but she could not do anything in the purple thunder profound cauldron. She was isolated by the sudden appearance of a large amount of purple gold thunderbolts. How am I shameless? I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just selling you. I believe that with your purple color and strength, there will be many people who will like you. The price will definitely not be low. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and imprisoned the 8 maidservants. Boy, if you have the ability, come at me. They are just maidservants and have nothing to do with them. As a Nirvana realm expert, do you only have this little ability to attack a few maidservants? Lien Qingrong gloomily stared at Du Xiaofu. You dare to touch my women, but I can't touch your maidservants. I'll sell them all someday. What can you do to me? Du Xiaofu said in a deep voice. What do you want? Lien Qingrong looked directly at Du Xiaofu, her eyes twitching. What is the relationship between the Great Snow Mountain and the Dragon God and the Supreme Expert who sealed the evil spirit? Du Xiaofu asked. This was what he wanted to know. Lian Qingrong looked at the 8 maidservants imprisoned by Du Xiaofu. After a moment, she was forced to compromise and said to Du Xiaofu, in ancient times, the ancestors of my sect had followed the Dragon God and the Supreme Expert who sealed the evil spirit. When the evil spirit broke the seal, the catastrophe of the world would come again. My Great Snow Mountain had always warned the world to be careful, but no one believed us. We were not valued by the world and were secretly suppressed. But my sect said that when the catastrophe of the world came again, the 9 divine thunder cauldrons would also gather. As long as my Great Snow Mountain had one successor, he would have to follow the owner of the divine thunder cauldron to resist the catastrophe of the world. Du Xiaofu was secretly moved. He did not doubt Lian Qingrong's words. The gathering of the 9 cauldrons was not something that ordinary people would know. You have sealed yourself for so many years. What is your purpose in entering the space of the divine realm? Du Xiaofu continued to ask, with a faint golden light flashing in his eyes. This is the last time the space of the divine realm is opened. It is said that there is the greatest opportunity left by the Supreme Expert who sealed the evil spirit. I am the only one left in my Great Snow Mountain. I am looking for the revitalization of my Great Snow Mountain to face the catastrophe of the world soon. Lian Qingrong said. Well, submit to me. Du Xiaofu said to Lian Qingrong. Why? You are a great supreme nirvana. In the space of the divine realm, I also have the opportunity to go further. I am already at the peak of nirvana of real self, but you are still at nirvana of nirvana. You are still too young in front of me. If I was in my heyday, you would not be able to do anything to me in a one-on-one fight. You want me to submit to you? You are overestimating yourself. Lian Qingrong said in a deep voice. He wanted to subdue the kid in front of him, but he did not expect that in just a few months, this kid actually wanted him to submit to him now. You are the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain. You have to follow the owner of the divine thunder cauldron to fight against the catastrophe of the world. I am the owner of the divine thunder cauldron. You will not feel wronged if you submit to me, Du Xiaofu said. There are 9 divine lightning cauldrons, you only have one, right? Could it be that you want me to follow 9 people? 9 divine lightning cauldrons are gathered together, that's why I'm following them. I'm only following them, I'm not submitting. Lian Qingrong said. Well, I will give you a chance to recover to your heyday. When the time comes, you and I will fight. If I lose, I will let you and your maid go. If I win, you will submit to me. Du Xiaofu said. Originally, he wanted to teach this guy a lesson. However, the ancestor of his sect had followed the dragon god. That was little Xingxing's father. His divine thunder cauldron was also the owner of the 3,000 great worlds. Naturally, it was not good to make a move. And Lian Qingrong's natural beauty and talent also tempted Du Xiaofu. He wanted to subdue her and thought highly of her. You have a divine thunder cauldron. Even if I recover to my heyday, you will not be defeated. Lian Qingrong was very clear that he could not subdue the divine thunder cauldron. You and I will fight with our true strength. We will not use any treasures. Du Xiaofu looked at Lian Qingrong and said, this is my bottom line. The divine thunder cauldron is very important. You already know that now. If you can't become my person, I will not keep you. Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu and did not hesitate anymore. He nodded and said, well, 1 month later, we will fight with our true strength. If you lose, let go of my maid. We will not have any relationship in the future. I will keep my mouth shut about the divine thunder cauldron in your hands. If I lose, I will submit to you. But you will not have this chance. Lian Qingrong did not want to drag on for too long. He had a secret method. Even if he could not recover to his heyday in a month's time, he would be almost recovered. And the longer it dragged on, the worse it would be for him. From the last time they met until now, only a few months had passed. His strength had improved tremendously, so he had to be on guard. Chapter 1645. Alright, 1 month it is. Du Xiaofu nodded. A misty light shot out from his glabella, bringing with it a boundless qi that distorted the space inside the purple thunder profound cauldron. Then, in front of the 8 maidservants and Lian Qingrong's surprise, Du Xiaofu dissolved the 8 maidservants' restriction and said, "Go inside and treat your injuries, it will save you a lot of time." Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu and entered without any doubt. The 8 maidservants were vigilant, but they also followed Lian Qingrong in a hurry, afraid to stay by Du Xiaofu's side for too long. After a while, after exiting the purple thunder profound cauldron, the scarlet demonic monkey's primordial spirit withdrew. Du Xiaofu withdrew the formation and said to Dongli Qingqing, "I will be in seclusion for 3 days in this place. I will protect you." Dongli Qingqing nodded. She knew that Du Xiaofu's seclusion was related to Lian Qingrong. 1 month in the desolate ancient space was equivalent to 3 days in the outside world. 3 days later, they would have a crucial battle. Swoosh, swoosh, seeing the formation being withdrawn, the Su lady, Yun Zhan, and the others flew over. "I will be in seclusion for 3 days. You can wait for me here or leave first," Du Xiaofu said to the Su lady and the others. Then, he handed the desolate ancient space to Dongli Qingqing and entered the desolate ancient space himself. The Su lady's beautiful eyes flickered, but she did not choose to leave. In the center of the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. He was not confident about the battle with Lian Qingrong in 1 month. However, Lian Qingrong's fear of the divine thunder cauldron gave Du Xiaofu a little more confidence. In terms of physical strength, he also had his own reliance. In a real battle, he had to comprehend more of his ultimacy in this 1 month. A moment later, Du Xiaofu entered a state of comprehension. The ancient runes on his body flickered, sometimes splitting into 8, sometimes splitting into 64. During the 1 month in the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu wanted to improve the Upanishads he had comprehended in the life-saving talisman. During the battle with Lian Qingrong, he had comprehended something. "I keep feeling like I'm missing something. Just a little bit more." A moment later, Du Xiaofu opened his eyes. Golden light fluctuated in his eyes, and the ancient runes on his body flickered. Recently, he had been immersed in a comprehension derived from the life-saving talisman, but he always felt that something was missing. Including the battle with Lian Qingrong a few days ago, if he could further comprehend the life-saving talisman, it would not be easy for Lian Qingrong to escape the next time he trapped her with 8 talismans. The first life, the second life, the third life, the fourth life, the fifth life, wandering soul, returning soul, 8 ancient runes hovered in front of Du Xiaofu, corresponding to the 8 words in his mouth. He murmured softly, "Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. I keep feeling like déjà vu, there's something in common. Right, the 8 gates universe formation." Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's eyes lit up. He remembered the 8 gates universe formation. It was an 8-star Nirvana-level talisman formation he had found on the 9th floor of the Hehuan School's universe building. The 8 gates referred to the 8 different spatial positions determined by the 8 trigrams and the Qimen Duanjia. Gate of opening, gate of rest, gate of life, gate of pain, gate of limit, gate of view, gate of surprise, gate of death. The first life, the second life, the third life, the fourth life, the fifth life, wandering soul, returning soul. Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly lit up. He seemed very excited, as if he had found something in common. He immediately immersed himself in comprehension again. The 8 talismans on his body were constantly deducing, arranging, and deriving. Gantian, Kuan Di, Zhenlei, Sun Feng, Ken Shui, Li Hua, Zhen Shan, Dui Zhe. Du Xiaofu muttered. The 8 ancient talismans arranged themselves in a mysterious manner around his body. They were connected in a mysterious arc, distorting the void. Tian Feng Go, Luo Shui, Hua Hua, Hua Hua, Lei Diu, Feng Tian Shao, Water Luan Jia, Shanhua Ben, Lei Fu, as Du Xiaofu's hand seals condensed at the same time, the 8 ancient talismans changed. Some talismans were shining with golden light, some were shining with white light, some were spreading with lightning, some were misty, some were rising with raging flames, and some were whistling with strong winds. Several months had passed since the opening of the divine domain. On the Chenhuang mainland, there were still people being sent out by the life-saving talismans every day. However, as time passed, fewer and fewer people were sent out by the life-saving talismans. The experts on the Chenhuang mainland knew that the reason why fewer people were sent out by the life-saving talismans was not because the dangers in the divine domain were decreasing. Instead, it was because most of the people had already lost their life-saving talismans. Once they were in danger, they might really die in the divine domain. The desolate country is going to prosper. Du Yunlong and Yi Piaoling have achieved nirvana. Just in the desolate country alone, there are already a few nirvana supremes. I'm afraid no one can stop the desolate country from prospering. The news of Yi Piaoling and Du Yunlong achieving nirvana in the divine domain had already been spread out. It had also shaken the world. The desolate country, which was not big, already had a few nirvana supremes. Such a lineup could not help but move the major forces around. It said that Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger and some purple dragon emperor are leading the younger generation of the desolate country. They are wantonly dealing with the legalism, dragons and school of vertical and horizontal. Not only that. There are also the school of Yin Yang, school of Mo and the school of Farmer supporting them. In short, the legalism, school of vertical and horizontal and dragons are probably regretting their actions. The people on the Chenhuang mainland waited quietly. From time to time, there would be discussions to pass the time. It did not take long for the people on the Chenhuang mainland to get hold of the various news in the divine domain. There were constantly people being sent out by the life-saving talismans and they would bring out all kinds of news. Some people had obtained ancient inheritances, some people had obtained treasures and so on. All of these were enough to make the experts outside the divine domain excited. Recently, there hasn't been any news of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, going on a killing spree. I'm really not used to it. An expert on the Chenhuang mainland spoke. It had been a long time since there had been news of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and he missed him very much. It's better if there isn't any news of the Demon King. The last time, the Demon King alone had already killed half of the legalism. He had also killed several descendants of the true dragons and 2 supremes. If there's any more news, I'm afraid the legalism, school of vertical and horizontal and dragons will have no one left in the divine domain. An expert snickered. Humph. Hearing the discussions around them, Qin Tianshi, Li Chenfa, Gong Sunhua, Long Teng, and the others' faces were extremely gloomy. In the divine domain, in the dense primordial forest, the dense fog that had affected the primordial spirit and celestial qi was dissipating one after another. However, the fog did not dissipate too quickly. The primordial forest had been covered by the fog for at least 10,000 years. It would probably take a few more years for the fog to completely dissipate. Above the abyss, Dongli Qingqing sat cross-legged, her eyes closed as she rested. Whoosh, at some point in time, dazzling ancient runes appeared in the surrounding fog. They poured down like a rain of light and gathered above the abyss. The dazzling light, accompanied by the fog that could not be dispersed, was like a dream or a fantasy. The woman surnamed Su, Yunmu, Dalan, and Xiaolan, who were resting with their eyes closed, were startled awake. They all looked towards Dongli Qingqing. The dreamy rain of light enveloped Dongli Qingqing. Dongli Qingqing opened her eyes. A misty light appeared in her palm, exuding a boundless aura. She recognized that the ancient rune light rain was related to Du Xiaofu. At this moment it was connected to the primordial space, becoming one with it. It was extremely mysterious. It's him who caused the commotion. It's only been a day. He should have improved, Dongli Qingqing murmured softly, a smile on her face. Swish, at the same time, the primordial space spiraled out from Dongli Qingqing's palm, releasing a misty light. A boundless aura spread out, and even space began to distort, giving off an illusory feeling. Then, a purple-robed figure stepped out from within, his body wrapped in 8 resplendent runes. When Du Xiaofu's figure stepped out, his body was also wrapped in 8 dazzling ancient runes. He quietly stood in the abyss with his eyes tightly shut. Runes of various colors, each containing different types of energy, continuously surged from the void. Walala, the entire space trembled as the mist surged in the surroundings. The ancient runes constantly arranged themselves and grew, wrapping around Du Xiaofu's body. They surged into Du Xiaofu's body with 8 types of energy, continuing to cleanse Du Xiaofu's body and forge his soul. The aura on Du Xiaofu's body began to grow stronger. What a strange presence. What's wrong with him? The Demon King, Du Xiaofu's presence is rising. Don't tell me he's about to break through. Big Lan and Little Lan both cried out softly. The presence that permeated the surroundings made them tremble, making them feel pressured for no reason. Walala, the 8 ancient runes evolved, grew, and rearranged themselves, repeating the cycle again and again. He didn't know when, but an unfamiliar energy aura began to draw closer and closer in the void. The unfamiliar presence of energy was difficult to detect. It would flicker from time to time, but it would vanish in an instant. Has he really pried into my true self? Dongli Qingqing stared at the tall figure in the sky. Her azure eyes rippled, flickering with ripples. Although Dongli Qingqing had already reached the level of nirvanic rebirth, everyone's true self was different, and everyone's path was different as well. She was unable to understand. However, Dongli Qingqing could also sense that perhaps he had already pried into his true self. Regardless of the final outcome of this secluded cultivation, it was enough for him to take another huge step forward and ascend to a more substantial level. Chapter 1646. At this moment, Du Xiaofu seemed to be oblivious to everything around him. His mind was completely immersed in some kind of comprehension. After entering the space of the God domain, Du Xiaofu had been immersed in comprehending the life-saving talisman. He had comprehended the life-saving talisman and also the 8 ancient runes. He tried again and again, but failed again and again. However, Du Xiaofu continued to comprehend time and time again. To Du Xiaofu, this kind of comprehension was somewhat illusory and unfamiliar, but he could feel its existence. It was like air. It could not be seen or touched, but it truly existed. Walala. The 8 runes alternated and changed according to the arrangement of the 8 runes. At times, there were 64 runes, and at other times, there were 8 runes. This caused the surrounding space to change. It was as if everything in the universe was changing at the same time. Du Xiaofu was immersed in it. He was deducing and comprehending. A rain of light poured down, and the ancient runes flickered. The unfamiliar aura around Du Xiaofu became thicker and thicker, lingering in the void. As time passed, the aura that emanated from Du Xiaofu's body also gradually increased. Waves of energy rippled out from Du Xiaofu, bringing with them the dazzling radiance of ancient runes. They were like waves of light as they spread out from Du Xiaofu's surroundings. There was even a faint rustling sound. The unfamiliar energy also began to follow Du Xiaofu's aura and endlessly enter his body. In the end, the 8 ancient runes lingered around Du Xiaofu, turning into an octagonal pattern that was neither round nor square. This octagonal pattern seemed a little illusory as it enveloped Du Xiaofu's body and slowly filled the surrounding void. Lightning filled the air, mist filled the air, blazing flames rose, and violent winds howled. There were a myriad of changes. Du Xiaofu's aura continued to rise, and the unfamiliar aura of heaven and earth around him became thicker and thicker. 2 days quietly passed while he was comprehending. What exactly is he doing? Big Lon, Little Lon, and the woman surnamed Su were watching from afar, their eyes rippling. He's ascending. He must have comprehended a great benefit, the woman surnamed Su said. The ancient cave was surrounded by faint lightning bolts. Boom, suddenly, on this day, dark clouds silently surged out from this area of the sky. Winds rose and clouds surged before lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and a strand of boundless might seeped out from above the 9 heavens. In the sky, a tall and straight figure quietly appeared. Lightning radiated from his body and covered his entire body. Purple electric arcs rippled from his body and carried a murderous aura. It was a handsome middle-aged man. His hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were slightly closed. His face was strong and handsome, and he gave off a powerful and domineering feeling. A terrifying and powerful aura spread out from his body. What happened? At this moment, the living beings within a radius of thousands of miles were also affected. They watched from afar, and then figures were attracted over like bolts of lightning. In the sky, above the head of the handsome middle-aged man, there was a divine ring that resembled a divine fire. It was filled with heavenly might. 1 ring, 2 rings, all the way until the 8th ring. When the 9th ring slowly formed above his head, a golden beam of light came from above the 9 heavens and enveloped his body. Rumble, at this moment, the heavenly sound rumbled and resounded in all directions. The handsome middle-aged man was dazzling with lightning. He was absorbing the power of heaven and earth from the golden beam of light. He was refining his body and refining his primordial spirit. Rumble, in the sky, the mighty thunderclouds were still gathering, causing the surroundings to be dark. It made people's hearts tremble. Crackle, finally, the dazzling bolts of lightning began to descend from the thunderclouds. It was as if a thunderstorm had begun to descend. When this thunderstorm descended, it shone in all directions and could pierce through space. The vast power was like destruction, but it did not destroy everything. Instead, it turned into mysterious runes and formed a mysterious force that rushed in all directions. That's a grand supreme nirvana, he's a grand supreme nirvana. Supreme thunderstorm, this is a great opportunity. Don't miss it. Yes. This is an opportunity bestowed by the heavens. Someone recognized the supreme thunderbolt rain and immediately rushed out, fighting for the best position so that the supreme thunderbolt rain could enter their bodies. Roar, there were also demonic beasts that roared and immediately transformed into their true forms and rushed into the supreme thunderstorm. In an instant, the world was in an uproar. The handsome young man stepped on the void, his entire body connected to the golden beam of light. He was dazzling and filled with lightning. A supreme being was in the sky. Boom! The rain of light poured down, and the sky above the abyss that was filled with ancient runes suddenly trembled. What's happening? At the same time, Big Lon and Little Lon cried out in surprise, their eyes filled with shock. At this moment, they saw the abyss rise into the sky. The sea of clouds churned, and the thick fog fluctuated. From above the 9 heavens, a dazzling light descended like a sun. This dazzling light was accompanied by an extremely vast aura that spread out from above the void and spread throughout the entire divine realm. Walala, the light shone like holy light, pouring down from the heavens. An endless and unfamiliar aura spread out. There was no thunder and lightning, no endless heavenly music. There was only holy light that shrouded the entire void. There was not much sound, but it made one's soul tremble. The holy light enveloped Du Xiaofu, and the two were connected, becoming one. At this moment, the 8 runes around Du Xiaofu turned into 64 ancient runes, completely forming an octagonal pattern that seemed to have materialized. The horizontal surface of the pattern appeared above the void. The octagonal pattern formed, and on it were wind, rain, thunder, lightning, mountains, rivers, and stars. They rotated and alternated with each other. There were also countless beasts that leaped from the pattern, roaring silently. Rumble. At this moment, when the octagonal pattern was formed, the entire space of the divine domain trembled violently. At this moment, all the living beings in the space of the God domain were greatly affected. Boom! An invisible energy shot up from the octagonal pattern, resonating with the holy light that descended from above the 9 heavens. At this moment, the pressure of the world rippled in the void of the abyss. That pressure can't be resisted. In the distance, Yunmu, Dalan, Xiaolan, and the woman surnamed Su felt their bodies go limp under this soundless pressure. They couldn't help themselves and directly knelt down on one knee. Their eyes were filled with shock, and even their origin spirits were trembling. The invisible pressure descended silently, like the wind and clouds, but it just so happened that they had no chance to resist at all. They had to bow down in worship and reverence from the depths of their souls. Otherwise, they would be crushed by the might of the heavens. At this moment, the 7 divine rings of fire appeared above Dongli Qingqing's head. Under the pressure of the invisible holy light, the divine rings lost their luster and dimmed, and her body trembled. This is the might of the heavens. At this moment, Dongli Qingqing's eyes trembled violently, and a dazzling green light shot up into the sky. She could no longer suppress the trembling in her heart, and even the hairs on her body stood on end. Everything was silent, but at this moment, on the Chenhuang mainland, and even above the Kyushu, the 4 seas, the Yao realm, and the beast region, above the heavens, under the astonished gazes of billions of living beings, a mysterious octagonal pattern quietly appeared in the firmament. When the octagonal pattern appeared in the void, there were wind, rain, thunder, lightning, mountains, rivers, and the sun, the moon, and the stars, all of which rotated and intersected with each other. There were also countless beasts leaping from the pattern, roaring soundlessly, whoosh, at the same time, holy light descended from the 9 heavens and poured down on the world. These past 2 days, I've been updating later and later, so I want to take this opportunity to adjust my sleep. I'll finish updating today. Chapter 1647. When the holy light shone upon the world, the octagonal pattern appeared in the sky. At that moment, there was a dark place where dark clouds covered the sun and moon. Suddenly, a huge crack appeared in the rolling dark clouds. In the crack, light shone, and finally, a pair of huge eyes appeared. As the pair of huge eyes appeared, evil aura came from all directions. Evil aura whistled like a gale, and black fog filled the sky. It was just a pair of eyes, but it seemed to be the most evil thing in the world. The dark golden eyes were lifeless, but as the eyes opened in the sky, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The pair of eyes looked at the void, and there was a puzzled look in its eyes. Then, it disappeared. Between heaven and earth, a palace floated in midair. There was nothing holding it up, and it was like a miracle. Outside the palace, a middle-aged man stood with his hands behind his back. The plain robe on his body could not hide his ethereal aura, as if he was the ruler of this world. It has come to this step. Maybe there is a chance to succeed. The middle-aged man looked up into the sky and murmured softly. The holy light shone, and the octagonal pattern disappeared in an instant. Heaven and earth are changing, and there is a strange phenomenon in the sky. At the same time, there were ancient shadows in the void above many secret places in this world, and they were calculating with their fingers. That is the saint's aura. Could it be that someone has taken that step and is becoming a saint? The ancient shadows were shocked. Everything that happened was blocked by heaven and earth, and was blocked by the laws. Even they could not calculate it. However, they felt the saint's aura, and their expressions changed. The appearance of the saint's aura was a shocking matter since ancient times. What is that? The saint's aura is descending. Could it be that someone is becoming a saint? On the Chenhuang mainland, countless experts were stunned as well. All of them could feel an immense pressure that caused their hearts to tremble. The octagonal pattern appeared strangely, and there was a strange phenomenon in the sky. Holy light shone, but it only lasted for a moment, and then it disappeared between heaven and earth. Everything disappeared in an instant. Countless experts looked up at the void, and it took them a long time to come back to their senses. That is indeed the saint's aura, but it is not to be underestimated. The old lady said, her eyes glowing with golden light. In the sky above the abyss, holy light shone brightly, as if covering the sky and the sun. The octagonal diagram in the air gave rise to strange phenomena and light surged out. That strange octagonal pattern had edges and corners and was all-encompassing. Du Xiaofu stood at the center of the 64 ancient runes that were formed from the 8 ancient runes. The ancient runes around him rippled and merged with the holy light of the void, as if they were connected to heaven and earth. Looking from afar, Du Xiaofu stood in the center of the octagonal pattern with his eyes closed. Holy light rippled around him like a miracle. But soon after, the octagonal diagram disappeared along with the strange phenomenon. Only the 8 ancient symbols and the surrounding sacred light continued to revolve around Du Xiaofu. However, the tremors in the surroundings grew more and more intense. The woman surnamed Su, Yunmu, Dalan, and Xiaolan's aura dissipated, and they looked up at the void. It was not difficult for them to feel that within the radiant holy light, there was a continuous stream of rich energy seeping out from heaven and earth. Then, it continuously surged into Du Xiaofu's body. That energy was surging, and the energy fluctuations that faintly permeated the air made one's heart tremble. All of this did not last long before quietly dispersing. The holy light and the 8 ancient symbols in the void also dissipated in the end. The surroundings of the abyss returned to normal. Only the woman surnamed Su, Dalan, and Xiaolan were left staring blankly at the tall young man in the void. They had yet to recover from their shock. A moment later, in the quiet void, a majestic aura, like a ferocious beast that had just awakened, suddenly swept out from Du Xiaofu's body along with boundless golden light. Boom! This aura carried the sound of wind and thunder, and it instantly rippled violently. The golden light and energy ripples violently swept out in all directions, emitting a deafening rumbling sound. Screech, a screech rang out, and the void trembled. From within the golden light, the enormous body of a golden-winged roc appeared in the sky. Its wings were spread out, and its entire body was glistening with golden light. Its ferocious aura spread out, causing the entire space to tremble. Screech, at this moment, the clouds were also trembling and screeching. In the surrounding earth, countless cloud-devouring wolves and shrews were letting out sharp screeches. The enormous golden-winged roc's body appeared in the sky, emitting purple-gold lightning. In the surrounding void, the strange octagonal pattern was faintly discernible. The terrifying aura seemed to cause the surrounding void to fall. What a terrifying aura! It's a world of difference compared to before. It's enough to crush people. Dalan and Xiaolan were trembling. They were unable to withstand the terrifying aura, and they fell to their knees again. They were worshipping a supreme being. He should have broken through again. The woman surnamed Su was dumbfounded. She was stunned. The Demon King was at the Nirvana stage of the Grand Supreme Nirvana stage. Now that he had broken through again, he should have reached the Nirvana stage of the Nirvana stage. True self-Nirvana was equivalent to the Grand Domain Realm, but it was something that the Grand Domain Realm couldn't compare to. At the level of Nirvana, generally speaking, even the most talented human Venerable Realm cultivator would be hindered and find it difficult to progress further when he reached this level of cultivation. However, Du Xiaofu had casually broken through. If this news were to spread, it would be shocking. Nirvana of true self, he really succeeded. Dongli Qingqing's eyes glowed with green light. A smile appeared on her shocked face. The shadow of the golden-winged roc was in the air, but it soon dissipated, leaving Du Xiaofu in the air. His battle robes fluttered in the wind, making him look like a peerless ferocious beast in human form. His aura spread across the endless sky, and the majestic aura that faintly emanated from his body could cause the world to tremble. What is he doing? He can't have gone berserk, right? Xiao Lan looked at Du Xiaofu, who had once again sunk into silence, and asked softly. At this moment, Du Xiaofu did not go berserk. Instead, he was peering into his own body. Everything in his body caused Du Xiaofu to be fiercely shocked. Du Xiaofu was shocked to discover that within his majestic divine watchtower, the vast and boundless profound qi was even more terrifying than before. Compared to before, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. The purple lightning profound cauldron and the purple gold heavenly palace were currently wrapped in profound qi. Strictly speaking, an octagonal pattern had appeared within Du Xiaofu's divine watchtower. It was the octagonal pattern formed by the 8 ancient runes. The purple lightning profound cauldron and the purple gold heavenly palace were also wrapped within the octagonal pattern. Not only was the octagonal pattern rotating within the divine watchtower, it was also connected to the body and the primordial spirit. Only Du Xiaofu knew this feeling the best. It made him feel incomparably comfortable. The octagonal pattern was all-encompassing and contained a myriad of things. It slowly rotated and could give birth to endless changes. This consort has lived 1 life, 2 lives, 3 lives, 4 lives, 5 lives, wandering soul, returning soul. Heaven, earth, thunder, wind, water, fire, Gen Mountain, Duiza, this is the 8 trigrams diagram. Du Xiaofu's heart trembled with excitement and was overjoyed. At this moment, the 8 ancient talisman symbols that he had comprehended from the life preservation talisman had finally advanced a step further under his comprehension and transformed into the 8 trigrams. The 8 trigrams diagram came from the heavens and earth and contained many mysteries. However, at this moment, he had comprehended it and turned it from an invisible form into a tangible form in his hands. Boom! At this moment, Du Xiaofu suddenly opened his eyes. Golden light shot out from his eyes and lightning surged. It shot straight into the sky and shook the surrounding space before slowly calming down. The invisible is the tangible, the 8 trigrams reveal the true self. The light in Du Xiaofu's eyes retracted as he stood in the air. He had comprehended the 8 trigrams diagram and had never thought that he would take the opportunity to step into the nirvana realm. The profound qi within the divine watchtower in his body had surged to an absolutely vast level. The primordial spirit's body in his mind, under the baptism of the energy of the heavens and earth, also rose once again and became even more vigorous. Feeling his current strength, Du Xiaofu's heart couldn't help but tremble. He could feel that compared to before, there was a world of difference. More importantly, it was the increase in the nirvana realm. 1 nirvana realm was 1 heavenly layer. However, at the nirvana realm, if one wanted to break through, the most important thing was to comprehend it to a higher level. The power of the heavens and earth was enough to crush everything that was lacking. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.